Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order at 11 a.m. Winner, will you please take roll?
Chair Brown, Vice Chair Goodman, Regent Breger,
Here.
Regent Carvalho,
Here.
Regent Del Carlo.
Here.
You do have a quorum present. Advisory members, Dr. Acree,
Here.
Dr. Asharian,
Here.
Ms. Connor,
Here.
Mr. Esma,
Here.
Mr. Evans, Mr. Garner,
Here.
Mayor Goins-Brown, Mr. Guzman, Councilman Knudsen, Dr. Kravchuk, Ms. Martinez,
Present.
Mr. Mosqueda,
Here.
Ms. Perdue,
Here.
Mr. Sanchez, Ms. Sherman,
Here.
Ms. Tartaglia,
Here.
Ms. Vinces Balvaz,
Here.
Mr. Villa,
Here.
Dr. Weekly. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Now, if you please rise, we're going to say the Pledge of Allegiance led by Patrick Villa. Thank you. Before we begin, we take a moment to recognize that here in Nevada, we stand on the land of the Washishu, Washoe, Numu, Northern Paiute, Nui, Northern Shoshone, and Nuwu, Southern Paiute. We take a moment to recognize and honor their stewardship that continues today. With this recognition, we state an intention to rightfully include their voice and respect them as the 27 sovereign tribal nations of Nevada. All right. For those of you who would like to make public comment, you can please call in and offer comment. Please dial 669-444-9171 and enter meeting ID 928-4944-5069 with passcode 555555. Is there any public comment here at CSN Henderson campus? Seeing none. CSC, is there any public comment on the phone?
There's none at this time, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to move into welcome and introductions, and I did have a brief statement I would like to read, and then I'd like to go around the room and give our committee members an opportunity to introduce themselves. First, I want to express my deep gratitude for each of you for joining this committee and for your commitment to this crucial process. This is a significant moment for the College of Southern Nevada, and it is an honor to serve as the chair of this presidential search committee alongside such a dedicated group of individuals. As I'm sure you know, CSN is the largest institution in our state, serving more students than any other. It stands as a cornerstone to our community and to our workforce pipeline. The work we undertake here has the power to set a trajectory that will not only fill workforce gaps, but also provide our residents with access to education and skills that lead to high-paying, sustainable jobs. The leader we choose will need to understand this immense responsibility. They must be someone who can foster partnerships with businesses, collaborate with economic development agencies, and truly grasp the role CSN plays in the growth, diversification, and economic trajectory of our region. We're not just choosing a president, we're selecting a visionary who will guide CSN into a bright and prosperous future. Today, we have the important task ahead of us of choosing the search firm that will help us find this leader. These firms were asked to present because of their experience and depth of potential candidate pools, but we can only hire one. So it's determining which can identify candidates who align with our goals and value for CSN and Southern Nevada as a whole. I want to thank each committee member who have stepped up to take on this role, my colleagues, and the community members who are passionate about the success of CSN. Your voices are invaluable in this process. This is our community institution, and your insights and perspectives will help ensure we find the right leader to carry CSN forward. This responsibility weighs heavy on me, and I'm sure it does on all of us. But I'm optimistic and remain steadfast that my belief, together we can navigate this process with diligence and purpose. By the spring, I'm confident we'll be able to find a leader who will set CSN on a path towards the future of promise and potential. Thank you for trusting in me in this process, and thank you all once again for your dedication. Let's begin this journey with the resolve, optimism, and dedication that this institution and our community deserves. Thank you. I'm gonna kick it over to Valerie.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is Valerie Connor, and I am CSN Faculty Senate Chair.
Hello, my name is Lori Perdue. I'm a National Workforce Director for the University of Phoenix and proud advocate for higher education in our state.
Hello, I'm Tracy Sherman. I am a past Faculty Senate Chair and now the future Faculty Senate Chair. I've been at CSN for 27 years through about 12 presidents, and I look forward to this process. Thank you.
I am Eric Garner, representative for the Administrative Faculty Assembly. I've been here for 26 years, and I'm happy to be part of the committee.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Richard Kravchuk. I'm extraordinarily fortunate to be the Dean of the School of Arts and Letters at the College of Southern Nevada, where my colleagues have also chosen me to be the Chair of the Council of Deans.
Rolando Mosqueda, Interim Vice President, Finance and Administration at the College of Southern Nevada. Thank you for the opportunity to be on this committee.
Armin Asherian. I am the Director of the Office of Institutional Equity for the College of Southern Nevada, the Title IX Coordinator, and I am also the Affirmative Action Officer.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sarah Tartaglia. I am the Classified Council President, and I am extremely honored to be here today. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Devin Eisma, a CSN graduate, nurse, and founder of Optimum Medicine, also its current CEO. We are a local ground and air ambulance operator here in Las Vegas.
Good morning. My name is Susie Martinez. I am the Executive Secretary Treasurer of the Nevada State AFL-CIO. And on behalf of over 120 unions and 150,000 members, I'm happy to be here. So thank you.
Hello, I'm Patrick Villa. I'm a professor of mathematics at CSN. I've been here only 20 years, and was the Faculty Senate Chair last year. And I'm very grateful that we have this committee search happening right now. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Janet Vences-Balvis, and I'm the 24-25 ACSN Student Government President.
That was awkward. I apologize. My name is Brian Knudsen. I represent the city of Las Vegas and Ward 1. I'm really happy to be here. I work a lot with the CSN, so thank you very much for the opportunity.
I'm Jill Acree. I teach history, and I'm representing the Nevada Faculty Alliance.
Thank you. I'd love to turn it on to the Zoom. Mr. Guzman, will you please kick us off?
Thank you for that. And my name is Peter Guzman. I have the honor of being president of the Latin Chamber of Commerce State of Nevada. I'm very proud to be part of this process. I have a very soft spot for CSN. I love that place. It's not only a Hispanic serving institute. It's not only an institution that helps people of color, single moms, but it goes out of their way to really try to get some of the more vulnerable communities a higher education, and does it with dignity. And I'm proud to be part of this. Thank you.
Ken?
I'm Pamela Goins.
Yeah, please. Oh, Mayor Goins-Brown, please.
I'm sorry, I'm Pamela Goins-Brown, proud mayor of the city of North Las Vegas, and so proud to be a part of this, especially for our CSN campus in North Las Vegas. So thank you for inviting me to be a part of this.
Ken, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Ken Evans. I'm the retired past president of the Urban Chamber of Commerce. Still do some community work here and there. For example, things like this. And the reason why is because I've been on several other presidential search ad hoc committees, and it's important to get the public input and the community input in my mind for two reasons. CSN is in a pivotal position to continue to produce a workforce that is diverse. And then number two, CSN continues to be in a pivotal position in order to make sure that we diversify our economy. And these are two themes that I talked about quite often as a past president for the Urban Chamber of Commerce. So pleased to be serving again. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more advisory committee members on Zoom? All right, seeing none, I just want to make recognition that Regent Boylan, Regent Ariscotta, Regent Cruz Crawford, and Regent Perkins are also joining us online, and I know Regent Goodman will join us shortly. Now I'm going to move on to item number 3, open meeting law. I'm going to turn it over to our esteemed counsel, Chris Nielsen.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Chris Nielsen, Special Counsel to the Board. Good morning, members. I'm just going to give a brief overview of the open meeting law. I know most, if not all of you, are familiar with this, and so if I tell you things that it's not new, then I apologize in advance. But the open meeting law is codified in Chapter 241 of the Nevada Revised Statutes. It's the body of law that all public bodies have to abide by here in Nevada. The fundamental purpose is really to promote open and transparent government. This purpose is not only just for the actions and decisions made by a public body, but also for the materials and the deliberations relied upon in making those decisions. The Nevada Attorney General's Office has sole jurisdiction to enforce that the open meeting law complaints. If there are concerns about the practice or of a public body, the EG's office entertains those complaints, can investigate them, and they have the ability, depending on the circumstance, to issue either civil or criminal penalties if violations are constituted to be willful. It's important to know that Nevada open meeting law applies to all public bodies. A public body not only constitutes elected bodies, like the Board of Regents, but also their subcommittees and advisory committees created by the public body. One of the key parts of the analysis is whether taxpayer resources are used to fund the work of that entity. So, for example, this committee is certainly subject to the open meeting laws. So what defines a meeting of this committee? A meeting is defined as a gathering of members of a public body where a quorum is present. A quorum is a way of saying that a meeting has a majority of the members. So for instance, there are 5 members of this committee, whose majority would be 3. An issue often comes up when advising what constitutes a quorum is called the so-called walking quorum. This is something that's done unintentionally typically. This is where a series of gatherings that may not have a traditional quorum present, but the totality of the circumstances and communications constitutes an active or walking quorum. For example, if one region has a conversation with another region and it's communicated via phone or email or text, that could constitute a meeting and deliberation and could ultimately result in an open meeting law violation. So that's important to keep that in your minds as we are here today going through this process. Oftentimes, the walking quorum scenario is done rather innocently. Deliberation also has a specific meaning under Nevada law. It's defined as, quote, to examine, weigh, reflect upon the reasons for or against the action. The term includes, without limitation, collective discussion and the collective acquisition or exchange of facts preliminary to the ultimate decision. As a rule of thumb, I would say don't talk about the issues that will likely come up before a public body. There are other aspects of the committee to be aware of for open meeting law rules with respect to noticing. A meeting that is held by a search committee must follow the standard 3-day noticing period for all public meetings. The materials for the meeting should be accessible to the public, and items that are to be considered by the committee must be agendized. The agenda items might be information not only what the board or the committee can listen or talk to, but anything that they take affirmative action on. The agendas must say, as you'll see on today's agenda, say for possible action if an agenda item contemplates specific action. The boards have the option to take action or not. That's completely up to the board and the board chair. One of the other hallmarks of the open meeting law is the public comment period, as we just had just a while ago. There are different ways to be in compliance with the open meeting law. One of the two ways which we're using today are allowing for a public comment period at the beginning of the meeting and towards the end of the meeting. Open meeting law requires this, and public comment is just really what it is. It's a chance for committee members and advisory members to listen to what the public has to say on a particular topic. Usually it's germane to the meeting at hand. The final thing to remember what's important in open meeting law is called sticking to the agenda item. This, again, can be an action where it has to be within the scope of the agenda item itself. And sometimes, while well-intentioned, items can stray off from those topics, and I'll certainly jump in and remind the chair and the committee members if we get outside the bounds of a particular agenda item. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. But that's really the nuts and bolts of the open meeting law, and good luck with today's meeting.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions? All right, seeing none, we are moving right along. We are going to go into item number 4, the search firm presentations. I'm first going to ask the ACCT searches to present. As a reminder, their presentations will be 20 minutes. I'd like it to be uninterrupted 20 minutes since I know that they had to cut a lot of content to, but then we will go into a 15-minute Q&A. So hopefully everybody has paper, write down your questions, and then I'll go around the room and we'll make sure to get to everyone's questions. So ACCT, you're up first.
First, thank you for this opportunity, and hello to all of the esteemed committee members and to everyone gathered in this room today. We are honored to have this opportunity to present, to share with you more about who we are, what our values are, and how we can best support you as you move forward in this critical opportunity. Dr. Debbie D. Thomas and I would present as a team. We would be co-consultants, and I'm going to have Debbie introduce herself.
Hello, I'm Debbie D. Thomas, and I am a retired CEO from the California Community Colleges, but I live here in Nevada now. We moved here 4 years ago. My husband coaches at Green Valley High School and has been doing that for the past 3 years. So we're vested in this community, and I am thrilled to hear the comments that you all made about the belief that you have in the mission of the community colleges, and would really look forward to helping you find a person who can fulfill what you want the person to fulfill as a visionary leader.
As ACCT, we are your nonprofit, mission-driven organization with a deep commitment to your long-term success. Because one of the most important decisions that any governing board will ever have to make is deciding a CEO. That is why we have a division dedicated exclusively to supporting searches. Decades of experience in terms of process, best practices, referencing, and recruitment. We shared a little bit about ourselves. I've been working exclusively on CEO searches for the last 18 years. We support about 30 to 35 searches around the country every year. The majority of our work is identifying presidents, chancellors, and about 30 to 35% of our work is VP, provosts, and vice chancellors. Why ACCT? What sets us apart from the competition? There are phenomenal firms here today that are available to support you and provide extraordinary and exemplary service. Debbie's commitment to the community, her connection to this region, and having a team of broad-based experiences. There is a full-time team based in Washington, D.C., who do as much of the heavy lifting as possible throughout the entire process. We know that everyone associated with a search already has a full-time job and a full plate. We work hard to do as much of the heavy lifting as possible, provide all of the draft materials for you to customize, review, and make sure that they fit the voice of the college. Our network, our recruiting. Even though we work exclusively for member organizations, for community, and for technical colleges, we understand that the profile drives your recruitment efforts. And we work hard to make sure the pools are diverse, represent the college, where you want to go as an institution, and that if the goal is to recruit people from different industries, from business and industry, from government, from nonprofits, from universities, that is also our mission.
With respect to recruitment, we really focus on developing a pool that understands the job that you want them to do so that they know what they're applying for. We personally have conversations with the recruits. As an example, Julie and I both did 2 searches in Southern California, San Diego area for neighboring districts. And we did have some candidates who applied to both jobs, but we had several candidates who applied uniquely to each because of what that district wanted. And we made sure that we did the homework necessary to know what the district wanted, and then articulated that to the candidates when we spoke with them. We will be available throughout the search, both Julie and me. I live here, so I'm easy to get in touch with, but Julie is one of the best as far as responding to questions and needs of the district. One of the things that we really emphasize in our searches is confidentiality, where confidentiality is needed. We talk to search committees and we talk to the candidates. We also usually tell them that that is one of the reasons, most common reasons why a search fails, if there's a breach in confidentiality.
I want to take a moment to highlight the last bullet point here, which is the referencing and background work. We are extraordinarily proud of the work that we do. And few steps are more critical to a successful outcome than the due diligence that takes place on the background checks and referencing. We have a team of individuals, some of them have been working with us for over 20 years, making reference reports on our behalf. They know what's being said, they know how it's being said, and they know what's not being said. The majority of calls are to individuals not on the candidate's reference list. And this is so critical to provide a balanced and candid portrait. We all have strengths and we all have weaknesses, and our team works confidentially to provide that balance. In terms of background checks, we use HireRight, which generates reports on credit, criminal, civil, degree verification, sexual predator registry, again, to help make the most informed decisions possible.
So you can see the numbers. Our success rates speak for themselves. We are above the national average on retention of CEO positions. But I do want to mention that part of the reason for that is the recruitment and the uniqueness of our approach to recruitment, making sure that they understand the unique needs of the organization that we're helping with the search. And then also the follow-up materials and resources that are available to CEOs and to boards to ensure a good onboarding process and then a successful relationship between the CEO and the board after that. This year, we have an added advantage in recruitment, and that is that with the timing of ACCT's Leadership Congress, which has record-breaking numbers already signed up to attend in October, it's over 1,700 community college professionals throughout the nation will be there, and we have a search table where we would display the materials for this search.
In terms of representative placements, we've worked with some of the largest and some of the smallest institutions throughout the country and everything in between. We have also done other work with state systems, including Minnesota State, the Louisiana Community and Technical College System. We've worked with a lot of large and complex districts. We've done extensive work with Maricopa. We recently worked with the Ventura Community College District on 2 simultaneous presidential searches. We have highlighted here our work with the Riverside Community College District, which is comparable in size to the College of Southern Nevada. And we've also done a lot of work with the SUNY system, again, large, complex state system.
Our commitment to diversity and equity and inclusion is throughout our search process. In our recruiting, our work with the committee, at its heart, what we believe personally and professionally is that DEI is there to improve student access and success and decrease equity gaps, and to ensure that in the hiring process that the process is inclusive and that we reach all segments of our population.
Our commitment to DEI is interwoven throughout every step of the search process, and beyond that, it is interwoven to who we are as a nonprofit organization.
So this is just the chart to show you the ACCT search process, and what we bring is national best practices to your search process. You'll see on the next slide, we've taken your search process, but these are all the steps that we go through to ensure that we have a successful outcome at the end of the search process.
And I just wanted to add that every search is different, and you have a phenomenal system and process that works. So it is our job to support your process, and the flexibility that we bring to each and every search is critical to a successful outcome, because we understand that needs vary, best practices can vary, and that there isn't one model that leads to a successful outcome.
So in our ACCT search strategy, we work closely with the district to, in the organization and planning of the search, and in the profile development, it's make sure that it has the input that of all constituency groups, and that we understand the specific needs of the system and the college so that we can articulate that with the candidates. In the selection process, we screen applicants, we help with the selection of the semifinalists and finalists, and then bring it to the Regents Presidential Search Committee for the interview of the finalists, and we will help you with developing your interview questions so that you get the answers that you need from the candidates. And in the final stages of the process, when you consider the nominees by the search committee, that are recommended by the search committee, we do the comprehensive reference checks and the background checks that Julie talked about before, and help you determine your first choice candidate and provide negotiation assistance if you want that. I think the most important thing is that any steps of those process, we are here to do whatever you need us to do to help, and we respect what you as a system and organization want to do yourselves in the way that you want to do it.
The proposed timeline, we value and appreciate the work that was put into designing this. This has really reworked your recommendation, what you are thinking makes sense. We understand that searches are subject to change and we're flexible. We understand also that the recruitment period here is appropriate and gives us enough time as an organization and as your consultants to recruit a strong and diverse candidate pool, that no corner is being cut on this proposed timeline in terms of the recruitment stage. We also understand, again, as Debbie mentioned, that if selected, we could move quickly. We typically move forward within 48 hours, finalizing contracts, getting it up on our website, because the sooner this gets out, the more buzz we can generate, the more people we could talk to, and the broader of an audience that we can reach.
And I think one thing that we want to point out on the timeline is that we understand that things happen beyond control of anyone, and so we're very flexible in adjusting the timeline to the needs of the college and the system.
Our guarantee that we will work extraordinarily hard as your advocate to follow the timeline, to ensure the integrity and confidentiality of this search, and to communicate regularly and clearly. We are here to provide support in any way possible to ensure a successful outcome. We understand the implications and the gravity of this search process. Fees and expenses. We, as a nonprofit, we believe that our fee should be a flat fee, regardless of how much work, regardless of the salary of the next president. Our search fee is $59,000. We invoice that typically in 2 or 3 installments, whatever works best. We also invoice our travel at cost. We are also mindful of travel expenses. And again, we are flexible. It is our goal for you to have a successful outcome, and in every search, the path to get there is unique.
We were so worried about finishing within 20 minutes that we're ahead of time, so I'm going to say something that I didn't have time to say, or I didn't think I had time to say, and that is that this will be the first search. I've been working for ACCT since I retired in 2017 and done several searches throughout the country. This will be the first time where I have a personal interest in hiring the best person for this job. And that is because I know the kids my husband coaches. And I know that when they leave Green Valley High School, this is one of their best choices. And so I want the person who leads this institution to be the best person to help lead this institution, to provide the opportunities for these kids that they deserve.
Questions?
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to the committee and see if we have questions. Yeah, please.
Armin Asharian. First question I have is, How do you go about conducting the search so that you can assure that there will be a diverse pool of candidates?
Well, one of the things that we do is that we have a huge pool of people who have applied for positions or have indicated that they would like to move to the next level of their professional career. The second thing is that we make sure that, it's posted, it's sent to, our whole listserv, and we send it to people that we know personally who are people of color and other diversity, candidates. And then we advertise not only in the normal arenas for advertising, but we advertise specifically in for historically Black colleges and universities and some of the Hispanic journals. And we make sure that we get the word out, and then we personally recruit and we contact people who are in positions and ask them for recommendations for people who are ready to move on to the next level. And we tell them what the system wants and what the college wants, and help. And a lot of them, good leadership means you help people advance. And so most of them are more than willing to do that when someone's ready to move to the next level. And that's a lot of what we do.
Yeah, and just to underscore what Debbie said, we actively seek out recommendations and nominations of diverse leaders throughout the country. One of the things that we've found is that some of the best candidates don't apply unless they are tapped multiple times and truly encouraged to submit an application. So sometimes I don't think so from a candidate as an opening offer. They're also very busy being successful in doing their job. So that follow-up is critical to building a competitive, diverse pool focused on the needs of the college.
And just one other thing, I think sometimes, in my work, I do governance work at a lot of colleges also. And when I see somebody who's really good, I ask them, are you applying? Are you ready? I think you're ready. Are you ready to move to the next level? And really try to encourage people to move on and take the next step.
Patrick.
So I have two numbers questions. I see your success rates on the slide, but I have two specific ones. I'm wondering if you may not have exactly, but a ballpark figure. One is, what % of the time have you ever experienced it where you have a group of candidates and somehow the committee decided, hey, we need you to go get more. We want to refresh that pool. What percentage of the time has that happened recently? And the other one is, what % of the time has the one winning candidate, the offer, not accepted for whatever reason?
Good question.
Yeah, and typically searches don't need to get extended. I would say 1 in 20. And that's a question that we always ask the committee after the initial work is done. Do you have enough competitive, diverse choice? Do you think you have the right person in here? Or do we need to go back out? And there is nothing wrong with extending a search if it's not right at that point in time. In terms of a failed search,
Not necessarily failed, but yeah, there was one, the 5 or whatever decided this is the one, and then at some point between that decision and time to sign, they got cold feet, they changed their mind, something happened, whatever. Has that ever happened where we had to come back and say, well, look at your number 2, because that tends to happen on smaller searches here, and I'm worried about that with the big search.
Again, it does happen. It is rare, probably once every 2 years. And we always let candidates know it is competitive out there. The best people are typically in more than one search. Sometimes people have a change of heart. They talk to their significant other spouse. So there are these unpredictable elements. And sometimes at the region or board level, they're splitting hairs between their first and their second choice. So there are two incredible candidates. Sometimes, unfortunately, that is not the case. And you go back out and you continue to recruit.
Thank you.
But one thing to add, we do everything we can do throughout the process to ensure that the candidates really are candidates, that they really want to take this job if it's offered, and that they understand the community that they will be living in and the job that they will be doing, and that's what they're ready for and their family's ready for.
We're also very honest about compensation because we don't want to recruit people who are essentially unaffordable. So we have a lot of, once the field is narrowed, we have multiple candid conversations.
Hello. First of all, thank you so much for your comprehensive presentation. I have two unrelated questions because that's how I am. First of all, your fee is less than some people's fee. So maybe it's an awkward question, but could you speak to that?
Absolutely, absolutely. We are focused on being a nonprofit.
Okay.
And we work with some of the largest, most complex institutions around the country. And we want to make this affordable for our members.
Okay, thank you. That's fair enough. And looking at retention rates that you gave us, of course, you're in the business of hiring presidents, so these seem perfectly normal. I was actually pretty surprised at how low they were. So could you address, in your experience, say the top 5 reasons that, particularly the 3-year retention rate of less than 80%? So why don't people stick with a job?
Sure, and this is comprehensive. So I know of a couple of examples where there was a health situation that occurred beyond anyone's control. There's another instance in this statistic where you had someone within a state system who was appointed to a larger institution. So our numbers got dinged, but it was essentially because it was a promotion. But you do have instances where it's not the right match and it's not working. You have instances where there's a family health situation and the family needs to move to another part of the country to take on a caretaking role. So there are all these variables that lead to that number.
One of the reasons that is one of the top 5 that in studies is board CEO relationships. So just being honest. So that's part of the reason that we try so hard to make sure that the person understands, especially if this is their first time reporting to a board, which many of them won't be for a situation like this, but some might be, that they understand what that means, so that they're ready. And again, we really, really work with the board and try to help the board understand how important it is to provide training, ongoing training for a CEO in there, especially new to the organization.
I'm going to go to Mr. Garner, and then we're going to go to Mr. Guzman online.
So my question is, most reference checks, when you talk to the reference, they're going to give a good report. So I noticed that you use higher right and that you said you look for cues that are not listed. What kind of things do you ask the reference that are beyond what's listed?
Yeah, do you want me to go ahead?
Sure. And to clarify, so higher right does the background checks, credit, criminal, civil, degree verification, sexual predator registry, generates public records. We have our own reference consultants who do the calling. And you're right, we all have 5 or 6 cheerleaders. We all have people who will, under no circumstance, say anything critical. which is why the majority of calls are to individuals at all levels not on the candidate's reference list, to help provide a really candid and honest portrait at current and prior institutions in a range of positions, faculty, staff, adjuncts. So again, that you have a broad perspective.
And I would like to just add that the candidates all sign a release form before they, as a part of the process, saying that they understand that reference checking will be done and that we will contact on and off reference, on and off their list. And then the other thing that we do is when we hear something from one, we will ask for other people who can speak to that. I've also helped with reference checks a couple of times. So we listen for what the underlying problem is, and then we follow up with other people about that. And again, like Julie said, and I mean, I speak candidly from my own experience, nobody gets to this level without having something controversial in their background that somebody thinks is controversial. So what we want to do is present to you the whole story, because there are always two sides to a story. Sometimes it's in the paper and it's one way, and then you hear something different. So we do the best we can to make sure that we give you all of the information so that you can make the best decision.
And to give you a specific question, how do we get to those weaknesses? One of the questions we ask is a hypothetical. So in a hypothetical situation, if you were to learn that the candidate is not successful, to what personal or professional attribute might you attribute this hypothetical failure? So that we found that there are different ways to maybe asking the weakness question.
Thank you.
Mr. Guzman?
Yeah, sorry, and I apologize in advance if I might have missed this part, but we have incredible people right there at the institution. Are locals allowed to go for this position?
Not only allowed, encouraged. So that's one of the first.
Well, I'm encouraged to hear that, because I feel sometimes very lonely in always advocating for not only higher ed, but all these positions, to look at the incredible local people that we have already here doing the work each and every day. So I'm going to certainly encourage some people to go for it. Thank you for answering that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to Regent Del Carlo.
Thank you. I think you answered the question, because you said something about you go beyond the people that they put as references, and I think you mentioned it. You go to other faculty, staff, and all that. So, because I was wondering, well, how do you know if somebody's not listed? And then I guess to follow up on that, when you do go to the people, do you ask them the good points and maybe a controversial, or what would someone say negative about you?
Yes, we have a standard questions that we ask of all of them, but then we follow up when we hear something that leads to a follow-up question. And then we also ask for other people who could speak to that, whether it's something good or bad. And then the other thing that we do with the reference check, our staff who does reference checking, is we give them a list of, we need to hear from people in all of these constituency groups, so that it's not just their peers, it's also people who reported to them, people they reported to, a trustee, just we give a list of different positions. And then, as I said, we ask each of those people for if there's someone else that we should talk to, and we get names that way.
And then finally, the reports are about 18 to 20 pages, so they are extensive. But once in a while, the hiring authority, typically the board, might say, you know what, we want to hear from a few more community members. Can you go back out and reach out to X constituent to enrich the report? And of course, we are always happy to do so.
Thank you. Regent Carvalho, Regent Brager, and then Regent Boylan.
Thank you.
I'm sure that you're aware that our system is kind of looking at some I don't want to call them disruptions, but some external factors. Well, one external factor, one internal factor that may affect this this search. Namely, we are currently conducting a chancellor search, which would be the president's supervisor, and also question 1, which would take the Board of Regents out of our state constitution and put that under the purview of the legislature. And at this time, there's not a clear idea of what that will entail at some point in the future. So this may be an issue for some candidates. There's a lot of unknowns in the future for presidential candidates coming to Nevada. So how will you address that?
Well, we would take our direction from you on how we would address it with the candidates, but I think we will be candid and upfront with them about the issues that you have identified, and then as we progress through the process, we'll update them on the progress in those issues. So we just want them to have all of the information that they can have so that they can make the best decision for themselves, as well as you to have all the information so that you can make the best decision for this college and this system.
Thank you.
Susan Brager. My question is more about, you have the candidates, their partner, spouse. This makes a difference. We're a unique state. We're a unique city. Do you vet, or how do you vet that they really have had those conversations? Let's say if it's a younger candidate with children. People sometimes look at some of our systems and think, this is my experience from real estate and some other things, superintendent searches that I've done, that they drop out because of that. Do you try not to have as many dropouts in regards, and just a real brief because we're beyond your time, but that concerns me that we don't want to get to the end and you don't want to pick the best of the least. I don't like when you're left with 2 and maybe you're just choosing because the last one dropped out due to that situation.
Well, and what I would say is, if they're going to drop out, we want them to drop out early in the process. Okay, so we want them to understand from the beginning. And I think one of the things that we need to do with this search especially is there's an outside of Nevada a connotation that everything is Las Vegas here. And I think part of what we want to get across is that there's a thriving community of families in this area, and that there's a great school system for their children. And so they're not going to live on the Strip in Las Vegas. And I got nothing, I mean, I love the Strip, but they're not going to live, it's different, Livy. They have opportunities to live in thriving family communities and then do this job. So we want to make sure that they understand that. And I think in this search, we do need to make a point of telling them, really, you need to have the conversations early with your family if this is a job that you really will take, because we don't want it to get to the point where they're ready to offer you a job and then you turn it down.
Okay, I appreciate that because I've seen it in the CEO world. The wife's crying in the back seat, and I'm like, I think I'll get out for a little while. But thank you for that.
Regent Boylan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had 2 questions, real short ones. First, I'd like to know who was that guy that stole my question about recruitment of diverse candidates. And I'll thank you, ladies, first. Good presentation. But do you do something like when they talk about blind hiring? Do you do something like that to decide that you will get the most diverse candidates?
That process is typically dictated by the college and the community if they choose to do that. So we have had searches where they wanted candidate names redacted, and we have done so.
Yep.
So typically we follow the college or state system's process however you would like to proceed as an institution.
Thank you. But that, what I meant was, do you guys do something like that? Obviously you don't. You wait for the college. Thank you. Appreciate it. Now, you mentioned a flat fee of $59,000 plus travel expenses, right?
Correct.
Okay. And then you mentioned quite often that you're a nonprofit. So we'll be paying for your fees for traveling, etc., even today, I guess. And so why not use technology to do your presentation? Why charge the taxpayers all this money for traveling and stay and, all this stuff? Why not use technology? We are higher education, and it's something I keep telling this board. So why don't you guys do that instead and save us this money?
Regent Boylan, we invited them to come. So it's not about
that's
not
fine. You can
optimizing
invite-
digital technology. We asked them to come here. So that's why.
Oh, so that's
Thank
good.
you.
You can, but did you save the money? Did we save money for the taxpayers?
Thank you.
No, we can invite them. Of course, we invited them.
Thank you guys so much. ACCT, you guys have been wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Ridiculous.
Good luck with the search.
All right, we are going to move on to lead exec. Come on up.
Thank you. I just want to make certain this is the clicker. And that's the green button. I'm Lisa Marks, and, oh, that is on, isn't it? I'm Lisa Marks, the founder and CEO of Lead Exec, and we are grateful for the invitation to join you today. Thank you to all of you who are present today, everybody on the committee, for NSHE, for everyone who's participating virtually, et cetera. We are grateful that we could be included in the process. The perceptions about and the support for higher education is changing. And the media is focused on public mistrust, escalating cost, underemployed graduates, and the list goes on. And certainly when you review Gallup's 2024 State of Higher Education report, the future for universities and colleges may look a little grim. We know that institutions and leaders will fail if they're unable to make the necessary adjustments in their organization's relationship with learners. We've already witnessed closure after closure of institutions. But visionary leaders, leaders whose hearts are aligned with the mission of higher education, the success of students, leaders who understand who today's and tomorrow's students actually are, those who are committed to advancing education's impact on the local workforce, local economies, and our nation, they look at the data and they see opportunity. They persist through the changes and challenges, they plan for the long game, and the most impactful community college leaders look at the data and they see opportunity on the horizon. Each institution, each leadership role is unique, and so it's premature for Lead Exec, for me, to make assumptions about what CSN needs in its next president. Instead, we want to ask questions of CSN stakeholders, glean information, share what we see in the market, and then together make a plan that would entice the very best candidates to consider this opportunity. There's a lot happening on your campuses and in your communities that will be appealing to presidential leaders. So today we're providing a brief overview of our firm so you're able to see what differentiates Lead Exec. Our end goal is to work alongside you to identify and select a leader who has the skills, experience needed to confront the ever-evolving opportunities and challenges present in higher ed. But just as important, we want to identify and select a leader who has a vision and the heart for higher education leadership, a heart that would sustain their commitment and inspire students, faculty, staff, and your communities. Lead Exec is a woman-owned and led executive search firm who focuses on higher ed leadership. We've successfully filled non-academic and academic roles in public and private 2- and 4-year institutions, institutions that are very complex, like yours, with enrollments maybe ranging from less than 1,000 students to some of the largest colleges, universities, and systems across the nation. Lead Exec is nationally certified and designated as both a women's business enterprise and a woman-owned small business. Combined, Lead Exec search consultants have more than 55 years of experience in the executive search industry. And as the founder and CEO, I personally bring 26 years of executive experience leading all operational aspects, both in small and large organizations. While much of my professional experience has revolved around building teams, I'm also mightily focused on systems and the details that ensure tremendous outcomes. So when you partner with Lead Exec, nothing will fall through the cracks, and we will do all the heavy lifting. Lead Exec is driven by its values of integrity, service, innovation, and authenticity. And finally, Lead Exec proudly supports tomorrow's leaders. We're grateful for the work that we do and that it leaves a lasting legacy through our clients and the leaders that they hire. We believe to whom much is given, much is expected. So we express our gratitude by contributing 5% of every professional fee to sponsor a youth leadership program within our clients' communities. Lead Exec's business model is unique. We strive to grow our business through deeper strategic partnerships with fewer clients, actually. We represent a very small percentage of colleges and universities. You may not realize, but the standard for executive search firms is that they don't recruit from their client organizations. By concentrating our practice on a smaller, strategically selected group of clients, we're able to engage high-caliber leaders who exist in the market outside of our portfolio, and then we entice them to consider a new opportunity. This ensures that our clients' access to talent is virtually unrestrained. Our priority is to be a strategic partner with CSN and NSHE, to become intimately familiar with the culture, opportunities, challenges, and initiatives of your institution. When selected to work alongside CSN, our conversations with internal and external stakeholders will provide critical insights that help shape the tools we utilize throughout the search and to help us refine our assessment of candidates. We have to know the realities of CSN and NSHE. Yes, the good, the bad, and the ugly, to ensure that those included in the candidate pool possess the skills, experience, and the leadership attributes that will be necessary for them to be successful in your president role. Our inclusive process also brings transparency to the search. This is critical in higher education, where shared governance is a key value. Stakeholders tell me again and again how much they appreciate being included. They see their thoughts represented on the position prospectus, and they know that they were heard. This also bodes well for a new president. When stakeholders are included in the search process, they're more likely to be supportive of a new hire. So when you viewed our full proposal, you likely noted that we have conducted searches for a wide variety of senior leadership roles. The reason? Well, that's because our clients know that we're experts in executive search. We are experts in the processes and tools, the targeted research, the art of engaging a very successful leader who's quite happy right where they are, and enticing them to consider a new president role, for instance, here at CSN. While we certainly know a thing or two about higher education and higher ed leadership, we recognize that you are the experts in higher ed. So as I stated previously, we prefer to ask questions to learn from you about your unique institution and your president role. This approach allows us to be effective leading searches across a variety of institutions and across a variety of roles. It's also critical that we're efficient and effective with every activity throughout the search process. Lead Exec utilizes the executive search industry's premier technology solution to manage the firm's research and data analytics, talent insights, client relationship management, and the secure web portal that provides seamless client access to candidate dossiers. While we have an experienced team, proven processes and tools, technologies, and a data-driven, client-centric approach that provides a foundation for excellent outcomes, we are also nimble and able and willing to adjust as necessary to meet your unique needs and the demands of your search. As you can see on the organizational chart on the right, the lead exec team is comprised of experienced professionals who support the firm's various functions. I will lead all aspects of your president search and be the sole interface between lead exec, NSHE, CSN, and your internal and external stakeholders. Assigned to assist me with this candidate, with candidate research and initial candidate development will be Heather Dauberstein and Layla Kai. Heather is a senior search and consultant who earned both a BA and MBA in human resource management. Layla is a senior search consultant who earned a BA in communication and a master's in higher ed administration from Michigan State University. My bachelor's is from the University of Missouri, and I later studied leadership, strategy, and management at the University of Michigan's Ross School of Business's Executive MBA program. Additionally, Lead Exec works with a cadre of higher ed advisors, college and university chancellors, presidents, and other administrators that provide insights, networks, and referrals to the most sought-after leaders. We have the resources, bandwidth, and experience necessary to deliver a highly diverse candidate pool of candidates who will have the skills, experience, and leadership attributes required as a successful president at this point in CSN's history. Our team members have led national searches for critical leadership roles on behalf of the nation's most successful public and private institutions, community college systems, university systems, and liberal arts institutions. We've conducted searches for chancellors, vice chancellors, presidents, vice presidents, provosts, and the list goes on. Our virtually unlimited access to top talent allows us to present a wide range of high caliber leaders for critical roles. A few success rates that we'd like to emphasize. Over the past 5 years, 71% of our searches have resulted in gender, racial, or ethnically diverse hires. Over the past 5 years, 55% of our searches were with repeat customers. We survey our clients following each search, and we're proud to boast that 100% success rate completing searches to our clients' full satisfaction. Additionally, 100% of hires made during our searches were still serving 1 year afterwards, and many of them several years beyond that. Lead Exec's executive search expertise and proven success rates will combine to ensure a successful president search for CSN. So the first thing I'm going to do is apologize that on this slide you're unable to see the detail of the placements that are associated with these various institutions. But members of our team have led the search activities that secured the following presidents, and I'm just going to highlight a few because we have time restraints. Austin College, President O'Day, who's been there now for 7 years. Cleveland State University, President Sands, who was there for 4 years. Fort Hays State University, President Tisa Mason, she's still been there after 7 years. Houston Community College System, we have led 14 senior executive placements there. We placed 7 vice chancellor and chief roles, 6 presidents, 1 executive director. All were there beyond that 1 year mark. 5 were at HCC between 3 and 5 years, and 6 of those are still there at HCC and they've been there for 7 to 9 years, and 2 hires we just made last year, and of course they're still on board. Metropolitan Community College, 2 vice chancellors, one who's their provost and been there for 5 years, another that's been there for 2 presidents, Larry Rudeau, who has been there for 5 years, and unfortunately 1 president who left after the pandemic. Nevada System of Higher Education. Lead Exec's senior search consultant, Florine Stawawe, led the research and developed the candidate pool that brought President Zaragoza to CSN, and as you know, he was here for 6 years. SUNY's Erie Community College, President Kokoy, who was in his role for 3 years. Texas Tech, starting with Chancellor Duncan, who was there for 4 years, President Skovnik, who has been there for 8 years and remains beloved at Texas Tech, and Provost Gallion, who was there for 4 years. The University of Texas System, I did the system's chancellor search, Bill McCraven, and he was there for 3 years. And then the University of Alabama at Birmingham, where we led 10 searches, and that started with President Watts, who's been there for 10 years. So I added some client testimonials just for your interests, but I'll just point out a couple of things. First of all, the importance of us being your ambassador, and President Humphrey mentions that in her quote. Also, Tim Lancaster, who was with the Texas Tech Board of Regents when we worked on the system chancellor and also for the Texas Tech president search. I included his comment because he points out that our team excels at convincing great leaders to consider new opportunities. Janet May, who's the former CHRO of Houston Community College System and is now the CHRO at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, both institutions have demonstrated long-term strategic partnership with Lead Exec. Our commitment to diversity. Lead Exec has a strategy to build a diverse applicant pool, and that strategy is implemented on day one of the search, and it works. We recognize the impact and value that diversity brings to an organization, so we emphasize DEI throughout the process. We collaborate with stakeholders to gain an understanding of your current dynamics, your demographics, the diversity goals. We discover potential barriers that may hamper diversity recruitment, and then we address those and figure out how we're going to mitigate them. Our search process is inclusive. Our research includes specific strategies for diversity recruitment. We ensure that our processes and our tools are equitable, inclusive, and minimize unconscious bias. We keep your team informed about the diversity efforts throughout the search. And diverse candidate pools lead to diverse finalist slates. Approximately 60% of the candidates that we present to our clients represent diverse groups. Over the past 5 years, 71% of our searches resulted in female or racially and ethnically diverse hires. We also participate in DEI trainings and regularly review and refine our own DEI practice to ensure we are aligned with best practices. Our search strategy and process. While our strategy and processes are proven effective, we still believe that this is your search, and so we are nimble and able to adjust to meet your team's needs and the demands of the market. Our process allows for us to stand behind you as your advisor, or, well, not behind you, beside you as your advisor, to manage and streamline the details, to guide your team when it's time for you to engage in the process, and to deliver a stellar candidate pool. You're able to see the various steps in our search process and strategy. I'll just point out a few things that we do. We understand and define the organization and organize your search. We target and engage and appraise the candidates. And I'll point out that we generate fresh market research for only the highest performing leaders that meet your unique requirements. So we're doing fresh research for every search that we do. We're not recycling candidates sitting in a database. We develop and utilize tools that proactively capture additional data points and provide greater and more meaningful insights to candidates and their families. We maintain the strictest confidentiality and security, which is very critical for a president's search. We're relational. We build candidate trust to the point that they are willing to be candid and revealing with us. They know that we want the best for them just as much as we want the best for our client, because it's the only way that it works to have a hire that's going to be lasting. We present, select, and interview all the candidates, manage all the presentation, selection, and interviewing of the candidates. We manage all those details for you. We oversee and manage all details related to the interviewing process, referencing, including off-list referencing, and I do all of the reference checks, so I know what to ask for based on my relationships with these candidates. And of course, we'll manage your background checks. Finalizing the search, we pre-negotiate those offers and follow through with your team with the new hire. I would be happy to provide you additional details through the Q&A if you'd need that regarding our process. Regarding the proposed outline timeline, there's really just a few things to say. We only conduct 6 to 7 searches a year so that we're able to focus on each client and their search. So we've blocked our calendar for this presidential search opportunity, and we're ready to begin the first steps as early as next week. We'll provide candidate documentation for review on January 20th and present for interviews with the search committee on April 8th, as you requested. Regarding search fees and expenses, you can see that we proposed a professional fee of $80,000, a project management fee of $7,000, and that defrays the costs associated with your search, like communications, technology, research, et cetera. And we'll determine all of those, any kind of expenses that are associated with your search ahead of time. All of those types of things vary based on what you want, and you're in control of those. Consultant travel, how many times do you want me to be present? Candidates, how many will there be, and how many times do you want to see them face to face, whether that be on site or elsewhere? A lot of our clients like to do things virtually now, and that saves them quite a bit of money. Finally, the guarantees. As the founder and CEO, I'm going to oversee all activities throughout the search and be the sole interface with you and the stakeholders and with the candidates once they've been qualified. We're guaranteeing that the presidential placement for CSN, we'll guarantee that presidential placement, and we'll continue our search activities until a hire is made. If after we've conducted the search and you feel like we need to go back, you haven't made a hire, we will do that and you will not incur any additional cost, no additional professional fee. When your president's search is concluded, we're going to make that contribution of 5% on your behalf to a nonprofit of your choosing. We guarantee that your presidential hire will continue in their employment for 24 months. If not, we'll come back and redo your search at no additional professional fee. Following the search placement, we'll keep in touch with you and with the new president, and we will not recruit from CSN for 12 months. And my clock just ran out. I'm not going to do my final remarks, but there you go. I'm happy to take your questions.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the committee.
My question is, when you're going through and doing your step 2, collecting your candidates, before you move on to step 3 of presenting, how do you determine that there's an appropriate level of diversity within your pool?
Well, we like to be at that 60% mark, first of all. And I want to say diversity means a lot of different things. So it's not only gender and race and ethnicity, but we like to bring candidates to the table who have a diverse background. We don't want everybody to have followed the exact same path to get there into that leadership role. But we're going to be speaking with your team and reporting to you along the way prior to ever presenting those candidates. I feel like I'm not looking you in the eyeballs. And your diversity team, we'll be making certain that we're working with them as well. We also we will be asking questions ahead of time to understand what your expectations are, because everybody's expectations around diversity are different these days. Depends on where you live.
Oh.
Thank you. Further down, assuming that we choose your firm, if the search came down to just a couple, 2 or 3 candidates, and there was some discrepancy between the candidate that the on-the-ground people wanted versus the candidate that the board or the higher-up people wanted, what would be your advice?
Well, let me start by saying, you would give me that difficult question in front of everyone. Let me start by saying that from the start of the search, we are setting the expectations. We spend a lot of time making certain that we have defined this search, this job description, position prospectus, and that everybody agrees to that. Everybody is going to agree, from the regents to all of you who've participated. We're going to put together a position prospectus that reflects everyone's opinions, and then ultimately that will be approved by NSHE. So we start off from a point of some consensus, or as close as we can get to consensus, and then if at the end there is some disagreement about who should be hired, well, obviously, the hiring authority has the hiring authority. But we are going to be communicating to make certain that all the perspectives are heard. I will never try to sway anyone who they should select, but I will ask questions to make certain that people are thinking through their decision fully.
So first of all, I know I speak for my colleagues in thanking you so much for your comprehensive presentation. We recognize how much work goes into doing this, so we really, truly appreciate it. I've got a two-part question, if I may. It appears to me from your materials, although it's not entirely clear, that the majority of your searches are not for community colleges. So could you talk about what percentage approximately are community college searches? And then the second part is, what do you find is different between community colleges and comprehensive universities?
I'm glad you asked me that question. So, no, we have not we do not have a lot of community college clients. I think I included on the list HCC, Metropolitan. So let me just tell a little story. I'll try to be quick. When I first started working in executive search, because this is not my first career, when I first started working in executive search, I was working with big research institutions, four-year research institutions, and I heard them talk about themselves and their mission. And then I started working for Houston Community College. And as you saw, we've done a lot of searches there, 14 searches for them. And the way Houston Community College talked about themselves, it just got me excited because they were talking about the relationship between the college and the community. They were talking about workforce. They were talking about building new programs to meet the needs of the workforce and of their local employers. And I thought, this is how it's supposed to work. It's so interesting. About 3 or 4 years into it, the university started talking about themselves that way. They kind of changed their language as they talked. And so, no, we've done a lot of searches in Houston, in community colleges. And I would say that they're very inspirational to us, and that mission certainly tugs on my heart. But it's certainly not the majority of our portfolio.
Mr. Villa, and then we're going to go to Ken Evans on Zoom.
Hello. Same question I'm going to ask everybody today. So
That's okay.
I'll give you the same one.
I hope I was listening
Yeah, it's
previously.
okay. Your best guess of percent of times that you have had a semifinalist group presented to this body and they've had to come back and say, can you give us more? Can you give us a different pool? Like, how often has that happened? And then the other question is, what's the percent of time that this group has, or that they've decided on a final one person, one winner, and that person has declined for whatever reason under your search process?
Okay, so first somebody who's declined, and then also a search that they made me go back.
Yeah.
I've only had it happen one time when I had to go back to market. And honestly, it was just recently at UAB because they signed a contract. It was announced to thousands of people. And that candidate's family pushed back. Now, we have a family profile that we fill out, and we risk manage that 100%. But the family showed up to go house hunting and pushed back and said they wouldn't do it. The person that was going to be hired said they'd never had, their family had followed them everywhere. They'd never had them push back. So here we had made this public announcement, and I felt badly for UAB, quite honestly. And of course, apologized profusely and felt like we had done everything we could to manage that risk. So we went back to market, And it didn't take much longer, 3 months. We had a strong pool anyway, but we ended up bringing back somebody who was completely not even in the original group. And it just more time in the market ended up making it an exciting opportunity. Now, as far as what we refer to as a failed search in the industry, we've never had a failed search. We've never had a point in which we were not able to make a hire. We are your partner to the end. We will make certain that you have the hire and the hire that you want.
Thank you.
That's why we have those guarantees that I've mentioned in the end.
Good morning, ma'am. Ken Evans for the record.
Hi,
A
Ken.
quick thank you for Dr. Zaragoza. I was part of that search committee, and definitely we say thank you for bringing that individual before us, and things went from there.
Thanks to Florine.
Yeah, it was outstanding. The quick comment I would make before my question is, I'm very pleased to see the way you incorporate DEI concepts into all aspects of what you do, and at the same time, make sure that we get great quality candidates brought before us, as well as a very good fit candidate. And maybe the one thing I wanted you to talk about a little bit more, because I found it to be impressive as well as important, is the fact the 24-month guarantee, but it appears as if many of your candidates are a best fit and stay longer than that. So not necessarily asking you to reveal your secret sauce, but maybe talk a little bit more about what helps you determine a person is going to be not only a good fit, but a good fit for a decent enough tenure to fulfill a vision that they may have.
Well, it starts at the beginning with all of you, asking the questions to make certain we really know what you need. So that's the first thing, defining that position prospectus and making certain that we know what you need. But when we are talking with candidates, we're very candid with them. As I mentioned, we are able to build a relationship with them, or rapport. I mean, it sounds silly, but I don't want to say friends, but in contact on a regular basis with a lot of the folks that we've worked with as candidates. I mean, we know each other's kids and grandkids' names, and we build a relationship with one another because they know there's only one person that's going to be selected. Everybody knows that. But the whole process is enlightening to them. They tell me this all the time. That was actually what you saw in the president, Kathy Humphrey from Carlo. She loved the process because she discovered more about herself. Part of that process is what we call a leadership profile questionnaire. Now I'm giving away the secret sauce. I hope you read about that when you looked at the full proposal. But we put that together. And I write the questions as a draft, but I get your input, of course, and final approval for them. But basically, it's like a first interview on paper. And it gives me and our team, it gives you the opportunity to have some data points and more meaningful information to consider that's alongside their bio and their letter of interest and their CV. And we know right off the bat whether this person has actually got what it takes, have the skills and experience, the leadership attributes, but also if they have that heart. This is a community college. Are they going to have the heart to lead the kind of efforts that you need here to work with your community, with your workforce leaders? So we are really deep diving into a candidate's background, into their family, and we have also this family profile. I think I already mentioned that. We have a family profile, so we understand if their family is going to be able to fit? I mean, if this is a president's spouse, are they going to be able to endure the requirements of that role as well? So we ask all these questions ahead of time, and that tool has worked amazingly well for us. I mean, imagine a candidate that has a child that has a health condition, and this is a real scenario, has a health condition. They are seeing their doctors, their network of doctors right where they are. I discover on that family profile that this spouse is not really that interested in moving because they don't want to have to restart all that. So I immediately started finding out, this was a move to Denver, finding out who was a specialist in that medical area. And lo and behold, look at that. There's somebody that is a really amazing expert in that medical condition. And I was able to provide that information to the family so they could say, oh, take a breather. Okay, maybe this is going to work. Maybe we could do this. Because they want the opportunity. The families are tremendously supportive most of the time. And you know what? We find out early on if they really aren't. And if it's not really going to be a good fit, I do not care about just adding another number to the candidate slate I give to you. I only really want to add the names, the candidates who really are going to be able to come in and do this job and do it extremely well and leave a legacy here at CSN.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Regent Carvalho?
Thank you, Chair Brown. I'd like to pose the same question that I posed to the ACCT representatives, in that there are a lot of challenges coming forward to leadership of our system, namely the chancellor's search that's ongoing, and a ballot question to the voters that may change the Board of Regents. And so how would you navigate that with potential candidates?
Well, first with a lot of honesty right up front, helping them to navigate through, okay, what would this mean for them? Obviously, these will be issues that transpire over time, and we'll keep them posted to keep them abreast of the details. But honestly, everyone, of course, is concerned about who's their boss going to be. I know. But truly, they're going to be more concerned about, is this college and this community a good fit for them? Are they going to be able to implement the things that NSHE wants them to implement, that CSN wants them to implement? Do they want to know, are they really ready? They're more concerned about that, and if this institution is a good fit for them than necessarily the issues like, what's the role of NSHE going to be, et cetera, and the Board of Regents. But mostly, we're just going to be honest with them up front and help them. And if we feel that they doubt it, I'm probably going to, well, you know what? Part of it, I'll be coming back to you to say, okay, this candidate has this concern. Help me navigate through it with them. So we're going to be communicating with you a lot as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We really
Thanks.
appreciate it.
You didn't even get my closing
Madam Chair.
remarks. All right, thank you.
Madam Chair.
We are at time, unfortunately.
It doesn't matter. This is a search committee. It's for questions. It's a quick question. Thank you. Ma'am, thank you for your
Hello.
presentation.
Thank you.
Quick question. Did you do, when you say leadership profile questions, do you do a regent and chancellor profiling to help the candidates? Thank you, Madam Chair, but ma'am, could you answer that one? Do you do that?
Well,
I mean, that would be awesome.
well, I don't do something like a leadership profile precisely, but we certainly, as we are speaking with the stakeholders, the chancellor, the chair, they're all stakeholders. I'm going to be interviewing them as well. I'm going to be asking them all kinds of questions to discern what they're like and what their expectations are. Yes, we will be asking lots of questions.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very
Madam Chair.
much.
Thank you so much. Before we call academic search up, we are actually going to take a quick 15-minute break to for everyone on the committee to get lunch. It'll be right through these doors, and we will come back and it will be a working lunch. So we'll be back in 15 minutes. Serge, thank you so much for being ready to go. I will turn the time over to you, and the next 20 minutes are yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to share with you our presentation, and we're here to serve. First, a little bit about academic search. So this is all in your profile. I'd point out that we're owned by a nonprofit, the American Academic Leadership Institute. So all our marginal revenues go into the institute, and they provide leadership development. They have a number of programs which run throughout the year. I believe they have 4 programs, and that's what we do. We support the AALI. And that's part of the reason why I joined Academic Search, and Mary will get into it. It's because of their mission. They were founded by higher ed leaders who believe that higher ed leaders knew best who would make great higher ed leaders. So that was the basis of our founding. And I also joined because of their commitment to educating and preparing the next generation of higher ed leaders. For the past 2+ decades, I've been personally involved with leadership development for Asia Pacific Americans. I'm a faculty and mentor for LEAP Advance, which we have our session every summer at Cal State Pomona. So every summer I fly out there and I do leadership development, and it's open to all. And we have quite a few community colleges as well as 4-year future leaders who attend that. A little bit about myself, then I'll turn it over to Mary. My name again is Gabriel Esteban. I'm President Emeritus at DePaul University, a private nonprofit in Chicago. Prior to that, I was president at Seton Hall University in New Jersey, where I also served as the provost and chief academic officer. So that was the second part of my career. My first half, I was in public higher ed. Actually, my first teaching job was at the University of Houston, Victoria, which was a upper level at the time. They only offered junior, senior, and graduate programs. And we shared a campus with Victoria College. So it was a unique, so we had library, auditorium, and a number of other resources. I was in Arkansas, where I was Associate VP for Academic Affairs at Arkansas Tech, and later on Business Dean and Provost at University of Central Arkansas, when the University of Arkansas Fort Smith transitioned from a community college, and they were allowed by the legislature to provide 5 baccalaureate degrees. So the late Chancellor Stubblefield led them to that transition. And I was very familiar because I was involved in Arkansas higher ed at that time. A little bit about myself also. I've worked extensively with community colleges, and I'll just state one example. As president at DePaul, I work with Chancellor Salgado, who's chancellor of the Chicago Community College District. And with Salgado, we developed, among other things, 2 programs which I'll point out. One was a partnership with Harold Washington College. So their campus, that campus is about 2 blocks away from our downtown campus or Loop campus at DePaul. So we were trying to figure out a way for students to retain and transition into DePaul. So we jointly admitted, we did a pilot program, and we jointly admitted students into a program where we guaranteed admission into DePaul. They were admitted by Harold Washington and DePaul if they met certain academic standards. We also helped provide support. In terms of advising, they could access our library and other resources. The classes were taught by Harold Washington faculty on our campus. So we thought this was one way to get some of the community college students to think about going and pursuing their degree. The other project we worked on, this was something near and dear to my heart, was at my previous institution. I worked with DePaul USA, a nonprofit, and we provided housing for housing insecure students. During one of my conversations with Chancellor Salgado, he mentioned that they also had a number of housing insecure students. Roughly 25%, he said, of the community college students in Chicago do not have a place to stay. They're housing insecure. So working with the nonprofit, we partnered and we provided housing, I believe for 16 or 24 students from city colleges of Chicago and DePaul. So I'm familiar with the partnerships and I look at it from that perspective. Mary?
I joined Academic Search primarily for its mission. I knew a number of the senior consultants who work there because Academic Search uses retired presidents and vice presidents as their senior consultants. And they come with a huge network of associates and experiences that they bring to the search process. So it's funny, I'm looking at my little short bio there, thinking, you know, I'm almost turning 70 now. But anyway, after 40 years of working as a chief legal officer in higher education, both for profit and nonprofit, as well as public and private institutions, I've worked really closely daily with a variety of college presidents. And so when I look at resumes, when I talk to references, I know where presidents worry and the things that they worry about at night. So when I'm developing questions, as an example, for the background checks and recommending areas for a search committee to pursue, I'm looking to make sure that the questions not only address what you want the person to do, but also to understand more clearly how they have achieved the objectives that they have in their career. And so when I'm talking to the references, I'm doing the same thing. I'm probing those kinds of things. So academic search gives me a chance in a different venue to help build great institutions. And that's what I've been doing for 40 years, building great public, private, for-profit, and nonprofit institutions.
We have in DC a powerful support system, and they provide support from technology, finance and marketing, and design. So as an example, if we're selected as a search firm, we'll immediately come and work with you to help develop a position profile, and that gets turned over to our marketing and design team. And they'll work with whoever you have in your communications team to put something together. Finance, I mean, we have a team also, it's all computerized, and obviously our technology team. We're transitioning to a new portal actually as we speak, and Mary's involved in that. Let me share a little bit about our experience. So these are our more recent success rates. And the reason why we have above average, I think, industry averages is because we take time to do two very important things. First of all, we take time to help to understand ourselves, the institution, the region you serve, right? And that's very important. And I'll explain why in a little bit. But you're a unique institution, and while you're a community college, you have 15 baccalaureate degrees. You have a number of bachelors in applied sciences. You have bachelors of science. You have the RN BSN. So you have emergency management. One of the institutions I was at in the late 90s offered an emergency management degree, and that's a different type of degree, right? So you have all of those. You also have apprenticeship programs in carpentry, for example. You have skill certificate programs. So it's a very wide range of program offerings, degree offerings, the region you serve. Right? So we have to have a strong understanding of who you serve. We have to have a strong understanding of the state system and who the individual will be working with. So those are all things which are important to us because these are things which we have to communicate to prospective candidates. And the other thing we like to do, which is why we have a high success rate, is we take time to understand the candidate and candidate needs. One of the things you'll get from academic search is Mary and I will do all the reference checks. We'll do on list and off list. And I've lived from coast to coast, been in higher ed from coast to coast. I've been public and private, and it's a small academic world. So I'll just look at candidates and look at where they've been. And typically, okay, our paths may have crossed. I already know someone who worked at that institution, or I may know someone who worked at that institution, and so on. So we get permission to do off-list reference checking and on-list. So it takes time from our standpoint, but that's something I think Mary and I enjoy doing. We like talking to people. And it's amazing what you come up with once the person you're talking to, even if they're on the reference list, what they share. If you say, oh, do you know so-and-so? I work with this person, right? It gives a different perspective, right? So that's something which we will do. We talk to all the candidates. Both of us are involved in searches, for example, right now. And my calendar is full for this Thursday and Friday to talk about prospective candidates for another search I'm involved in. So that's something which you'll get from academic search. These are just some of the more recent searches for community college presidents. We've done 65 community college and chancellor searches. So this is just in this region in recent history. And we've done 120 for all positions at community colleges. So our firm does have deep ties. And later on, we'll talk about how we recruit. But this is something which we know we can do.
Well, obviously, Gabriel and I care deeply about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We use our network of people that we know to identify recommendations and nominations. In addition, look at my pool regularly to make sure it's reflective of the diversity that I hope we can achieve throughout the United States. And I also spend a fair amount of time trying to reach people in other parts of the country who may not have thought about a particular area as a career opportunity for them as well. I know there's a couple of other questions related to DES, so I'll save those for the Q&A section, but we look at the pool regularly. We try to make sure that both your pools, it starts with building the right pool, and then your semifinalist list and your finalist list are really reflective, and that each of these people have the deep experience and knowledge that you're looking for to be a leader on your campus. Sorry. Our process is the same as what some of the other consultants have reported. We do a deep dive into your organization. We talk to people, and remember, we're listening with 40 years of higher education administration experience. So we talk with board members and everybody because you can learn a lot on the campus from lots of people. And then we have a vast network, as I said. All of the senior consultants at Academic Search are past presidents and vice presidents of colleges and universities and have had many different experiences. So we use, in addition to our database, that wide network of personal relationships and communications. And then we'll do an evaluation of the applicants. I personally, when Gabriel and I'm sure does the same, doing a search, we talk to the candidates to find out their real interests. And, you can pretty much smoke out who's just throwing their name in versus who really wants this job, that their family wants to move there, and all that goes along with that. And so for the people who are just throwing it in, I pretty much tell them, look, let's not waste each other's time. I'll find one for you that you will like, right? So that when you get a pool, it may not be the biggest pool, but it'll be quality. And then you bring finalists to the campus. So we work with you to make sure that everybody has a good experience in that, including if they're bringing their significant other with them. That's also an important consideration. And then helping at the back end. I mean, one of the things that I try to do is make sure that everybody is crystal clear, especially all the finalists, on the salary, on the bennies, on the everything that is going to be critical to negotiating that final contract with the candidate. No surprises.
So just very briefly, organization, we expect that to happen if we're hired to be completed by October. And this is what we expect to do. We'll deliver a timeline. We'll work with you. Position profile is going to be key. That's where you have a lot of listening typically to help us understand what you're really looking for in terms of your next leader. Recruitment. So one of the things which we bring is we have a proprietary database where we have a list of individuals, different positions, people who've applied for jobs before, and so on. So that we're going to do. We also have our personnel contacts. If we were to be hired, for example, since I've been doing leadership development for 2+ decades, I have a list already in mind of individuals who might be possible candidates for this. And we have relationships with leadership development programs. So we provide regular updates, and that depends on how often the chair wants the updates. And we have a web portal that will be established. So by February, April, we hope to be able to be in the evaluation, selection, and interview phase. So we'll work with the board chair and the hiring authority to do all of that. We'll evaluate. We typically will evaluate each candidate and share that, in this case, with the chair of the search committee and whoever else the chair of the search committee wants. And we'll share some questions we might ask. So we'll go through that whole process all the way to the initial round of interviews. Then the plan is to close the search by May. Okay. We can adjust the timeline. We've both done abbreviated timelines depending on the institution. There are pros and cons to having a shorter timeline. Longer, you have more time to develop a pool, but if you're in the market too long, then some of the strongest candidates may be taken off the table. Right? My advice to candidates typically is a bird in hand is worth two in the bush. So if they have a job offer, they typically will take a standing job offer. Right? So we'll help you with due diligence. We do social media checks, and you'd be surprised at the number of people who are tripped up by social media. Things they think maybe they posted 20 years ago. It's forever. Social media is forever. That's what people fail to realize. It's forever.
Can I just digress? One of the things that I was surprised to find out, and I try to tell all my friends and loved ones, even what you liked, I'll be able to see what you liked, even if it was 15, 20 years ago. So don't like anything that you don't want a future employer to see.
Yep. So we'll do all of that, and we'll work with you throughout this whole process. And I'll help address one of the questions earlier, is what we're finding as a firm is that more and more people are dropping out. Semi-finalist phase, finalist phase. I was advising a good friend of mine on a search that he's conducting. I said, well, for your semi-finalists, while you may have 8 to 10, you may want to add 2, 3 as alternates. And sure enough, a week before semi-finalist interview, he was down to 6, and he started with 8, and that was a week before. So we'll do all of that. We'll help you close the search. We'll do all transition-related consultation. This is our fee. It's our professional fee, and our guarantee is if you're not happy for any reason within the 12 months or they leave, then we'll redo the search for you. And that's why it's important to us. It's in our best interest to find someone who fits you and who also believes in the institution. So these are our fees. Professional fees, $107,000. If you need us to travel some more, it's $5,500, and so on down the line. So we're here to serve, and we're here also to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to, yeah, please.
Yeah, keeping with tradition here. So, on one of your slides, you said that you work to build a strong, diverse candidate pool. What does diverse candidate pool mean to you?
I'll start, and Mary may add. Diversity comes in very many ways, right? One is diversity in gender. As president, for example, my last posting, I hired more females on cabinet. All the senior leaders, there are 4 senior leaders at DePaul. It was myself and 3 others, CFO, provost, general counsel. It was all male before. I was the only male left at the end. Right? Diversity also has to do with ethnicity, background, right? LGBTQ, any of the classes which we protect, veterans, right? Because of the type of institution you are, question we're going to have is, will you take someone who has an industry background? I came from private industry before I did my PhD. Is that someone you disqualify? You want someone with a terminal degree? Okay, or what are you looking for? So diversity come in very many different forms.
And for me, I'm very interested and have been for many years in advancing women in higher education. I served on the board of the HERS Institute, which is in Denver, Colorado. I also taught in that program for many years, and with the goal of helping more women see themselves as senior administrators in higher education across the United States. So that's one of my personal pets. Obviously, with race, gender, and I think industry also, and region also, to me, are important characteristics. So I'm looking for a unicorn for you, a just right fit.
Okay, also keeping with tradition, I would like to thank you so much for your detailed presentation. And Dr. Esteban, I was particularly impressed with the dive you've done into our degree programs. Thank you very much for that. So I have a 2-part question, and you have addressed part of it, but I would love for you to get into a little more detail. Your 91% retention rate after 5 years is absolutely remarkable. You know, in an industry where we're losing, 40% after 5 years. So I would like to hear a little bit more about your secret sauce. And I wonder if that has to do, now here's the indelicate part of my question. Your fee is not the lowest in the country. So, if we were to choose you, what are we getting for paying that much more than we pay another firm?
Yeah, you'll get personal attention. I mean, I'm retired as a president. And when I joined academic search, I made it clear there are only a certain number of searches I want to do every year because I have other things I want to be engaged in. So we were just talking on the way over that I'm done bidding on projects for a while, just because if I hit on X number of projects, then I really don't want, because I want to make sure we provide the best service to the institutions we serve. And I think that makes a difference. I was just contacted by an individual who was in another search I did and said, Gabe, do you have anything for me? And this is a person of color. And I said, I know I have something for you. As soon as the ad goes out, I'll reach out to you. Right, so it's that sort of relationship building, which I think is important. That's what you get. I mean, can you imagine if you have 3 finalists, they have 5 people on the reference list, then we go off reference. How many phone calls each of us are going to have to make, right? And that's fine because you renew ties with people you may have known and so on. So that's part of who we are.
Yeah, and I guess I would just say, I take it as my responsibility to be a partner with the board, with the leadership of the institution to find the right person. And so what you're getting is my 40 years of higher ed experience of what it takes to be a good leader. And one of the things I wanted to commend to you is Academic Search just published a new report. It's called Competencies for the Presidency. And even if you don't select us, you should read this report. Because this is talking about the soft skills. And when you go to develop questions to talk to leaders, you want to find out, do they know how to build trust? Do they demonstrate that they have resilience, right? On the off chance that the board reporting structure changes, or that their next boss is someone that they didn't expect. Do they have the ability to be self-reflective? Do they have the emotional intelligence? Do they have the courage to lead the institution, right? You need a leader that's got courage and that's data-driven and understands the value and importance of it. So those are the kinds of things that you're not gonna get just reading a resume. You're gonna get by talking to people and probing questions of them to get to what you really need. Because what you don't want to do, and for the gentleman who was asking about taxpayer costs, let me say that the most expensive thing is not to hire the right person the first time around and have to either take more time, lose enrollment because you didn't select the right person.
That was a great, oh yeah, Mr. Kerner.
So you mentioned your success rate after the 5 years, but in terms of the 2-year, do you see a lot of people falling off after that, and do you have any type of guarantee if a person?
Well, yeah, we do have a guarantee, which is if it's not successful, within a year, we'll do it again. But so as Gabriel said, we really don't want that to happen. So we're also trying to get it right the first time too. So no, we try not to do very many of those.
I'm going to go to Patrick, and then we're going to go to Mayor Goins-Brown on Zoom.
So my same two questions that I had asked the other groups earlier, I'll rephrase them or re-ask them. You sort of alluded to both of them. Sorry. First question is about, you have a lot of searches that are successful. I've seen that, I like the numbers, but what's the percent of times that the group has asked, there's been a semifinalist group presented to this, body, and they've come back to you and said, we need more. We don't like this pool. Can you regenerate, give us some more? And then the other one is, how many times after that group has made their final decision, what's the percent of the time that that person, for whatever reason, has declined or backed out or withdrew, when they were the one who was picked?
Each consultant has their own, book of business, if you will. I just had somebody back out of a search in California last year, and I was very disappointed because he was perfect. But they offered him $1.4 million to stay in his community college, so he decided to stay. And the president, although he was somewhat upset that he wasn't getting a new CFO, said, I'd have taken that deal too. So sometimes the reason is, sort of beyond your control. But hopefully when he gets those gold handcuffs off, he might head back to California. So we'll see how that goes. But for the most part, I try to make sure that I won't give you one or two finalists. I'm going to make sure that you've got 3 or 4 finalists who can do this job, because anything can happen at the last minute. People change their mind, life happens in between. So don't want to have to go back and redo. That sort of sends a message in the ethers that something might be wrong, so we don't want that. So we try to make sure that you've got a couple of solid candidates either way you go.
Thank you.
Hi, along those same lines, and thank you for your presentation. Did I hear you mention a few slides ago that you, and maybe I heard it wrong, would know who to, if there was a candidate that you felt was good, that you would present that to us? Or did I hear that wrong? Or was it stated differently? Maybe I misunderstood.
I'm not sure. Because we have a pool of, we have a database, we have a pool of candidates. So we always ask our colleagues, for example, and we've done searches before, if we think there's a candidate who might be a strong candidate for a certain position, we're going to contact them again, assuming they didn't get the position which they applied for. And for example, just in the search I'm involved in right now, we reached out to our colleagues at Academic Search, and we got a list of names who they said, try this. They did not get the job at this institution. We think they'll be a good fit for the search you're involved in. So we have constant communication. So we'll reach out to people. And we'll also ask the community at large to nominate people.
Yes, I was going to say, we're going to ask you to nominate people that you know, because you know your institution better than we do about who might be a great fit.
Okay, I just want a clarification on that statement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Regent Boylan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, folks, for your great presentation, and I admire your knowledge. First question actually is to the young lady. You mentioned something about the competencies or leadership, something article. What was that?
Yeah, Academic Search engaged some faculty to do a one-year search or study on presidential competencies along with some of the other trade associations that we work with. And so they got a response back from about 700 currently serving college and university presidents across the country and boiled down the competencies that these presidents have found have been most important for them to be successful in their presidencies. It boils down to about 6. And the link is available on Academic Search's website, but I'll also send to your board secretary a link to that information, because it's worthwhile for you to have that, just so you can, as you start to develop what you want and how you want, and the kinds of questions you're going to ask candidates and so forth, these are the areas where you really want to get to it. Not just could they raise money or were they able to, sort of build workforce development, but how did they do it? Who did they do it with? Did they engage the community and the business leaders in that community and the Rotary clubs and all the rest of that into bringing to your campus what you need? So I think those competencies, as you design your search, will be important to you.
Thank you, ma'am. You're too kind. And one last question, Chair. I appreciate your indulgence. This is for the handsome young man standing there. You mentioned something about your preference for minorities and women and blah, blah, blah. Do you take those preferences over quality?
No, I didn't refer as preference, but you try and develop a diverse pool as you can. I reach out to contacts and so on. Then you still hire the best person for the job. At the end of the day, you hire the best person for the job. Part of the problem is, I think part of the problem we're seeing is that there are a lot of individuals. I've been trying to convince a number of people I know to become a dean or provost and so on. They just don't want to, okay? You say, you're gonna they have high emotional intelligence, among others. We're finding communication skill, it's really important. But it's tapping people on the shoulder saying, you know what, I think you'll do good at this job, identifying them. All the searches, in the book they talk about building a cabinet. I built my cabinet at both institutions I was at, and I ended up with diverse cabinet members, not because I wanted diverse, but I made sure the pool was diverse. And I was able to select for a number of reasons, the strongest candidate for the pool. So it's not about quotas, it's not about saying, I want X number of Latinos, X number of, it's about saying, how do I make sure I have a diverse pool of qualified candidates and find the candidate who best will work with the campus and the constituents of the campus.
Thank you so much. You had me concerned there. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Regent Carvalho.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will again stick to tradition and ask the same question, although I do hear that you've alluded to some of it with the struggles that you see lately with with candidates and, you know, making sure that they go through with it. I think we see that generally in, you know, in the job market. And so this just adds to it. And so with our things that are happening in our system with the challenges, really with our top leadership. So how would you, if you have a candidate that comes forward and says, well, how am I going to navigate this without knowing who my supervisor is? How do you navigate that sort of question?
Yeah, I mean, as with our colleagues at the other search firms, you always try and keep the candidates informed. You're just open, transparent with them. The candidate you want, it shouldn't matter. Right? The candidate you want, and if you look at the presidential competencies, because even if you have a sitting chancellor, even if the structure stays the same, it can always change at any given time. When I was hired as business dean, before I even started, the provost left. So I was stuck with an interim provost, and I had 3 presidents in my first year as business dean. So talk about transition, but you adapt. I mean, you were hired because of your skill sets. None of us who've served in these roles know what we're getting into. I mean, you kind of know, but you really don't know. Okay. I did not know that COVID was going to happen. When I became provost and president at Seton Hall, I did not know that the Great Recession of 2008 and its impact on the East Coast, the New York in particular, was going to have that large an impact on our finances, enrollment. So that's something you roll with the punches with. There's no school so you want a leader, a president, who knows that it can change at any given time, but has the emotional intelligence, is able to adapt, is able to innovate, and go with the flow. So that's what you want in a leader. And if someone declines because of the uncertainty, then that person is probably, first of all, not a risk taker, because I believe in taking calculated risks, and maybe not the best person to lead the institution forward, right? Because I know the board changes also, right? And that's part of it. I mean, I worked with my private institutions. I had 46 board members at my previous institution and 28 at the one before. So.
Thank you. So 13 doesn't seem like so much then.
Oh, no, that's a piece of cake.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. That is time. We really appreciate that presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'd like to call up AGB, and you have 20 minutes. Thank you so much.
And how does the clicker work? How do we advance the slides? Is it? Okay. How does it work? Good afternoon. Chair Brown, Regents, Board of Advisory members, thank you so much for having us here today. And we look forward to the opportunity to hearing your questions after we finish our presentation. Okay. So this is a little bit about AGB. You did receive our proposal, but I just wanted to emphasize that we feel like we're uniquely qualified because our leadership comes from the experience of leadership in higher education. We have over 50 search consultants, and we partner as a team. We have a very collaborative approach to our work, and we've all served in leadership roles across different sectors, including community colleges. Myself, I served as a board professional, and I'm still very connected to that role, that important role on the leadership team. We're committed to your success. Our success is your success, and we are results driven. And our approach is really highly relational, And we know that completing a search is just part of the role of AGB in the life of higher education leadership across the nation. A little bit about myself. I am Dr. Kim Bobby, I should have said that at the beginning. And I've been with AGB since 2017. I'm a principal, but prior to that, I served as Chief of Staff at Prince George's Community College. And also, I was the inaugural Chief Diversity Officer at the University of Puget Sound, where I also served on the faculty. And I also served as the director of the Inclusive Excellence Group at the American Council on Education, where I advance women leaders, facilitating the ACE Women's Network across the nation, and also building leadership programs for aspiring college presidents across all sectors. I'm very proud of that work, and it really set me up to be successful as a search principal at AGB because I'm still in touch with many of those individuals who have advanced in their careers and continue to advance, and they're part of my network as I extend my opportunities now as a principal at AGB Search. Sarah?
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Dirksen. I am pleased to be here today to present before you with my colleague Kim. I am newer to AGB Search, joined the firm last year, and before that, my involvement in executive search was as an advisor to the Board of Regents for the University of Minnesota system, which is a large public system, multi-campus, R1 system. So my pull toward this work is really to help build the capacity of search committees, in this case, the hiring committee of Regents, to be able to find their next great leaders. I'm really pulled to public missions. My background before higher education was in municipal government and before that in state government. So the health of public institutions is really important to me, and I'm thrilled to bring that energy and enthusiasm to your search.
Here's a little bit about our numbers. We currently, we have 47% of our presidents and chancellor searches have come from members of marginalized social identities. And overall, 63% of our replacements are women and people of color from underrepresented groups. As I said earlier, that's been sort of a hallmark in my career, as you can see from my background in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we've done over 350 presidents and chancellor searches. We are committed to the success of those individuals. We leverage our relationship with the Association of Governing Boards for Universities and Colleges. You are a member. And we really leverage those relationships because we cultivate resources for boards and chancellors and presidents to be the most optimal partners in commitment to student success. And so that's really what we bring as a value add in our work. And I work on both sides of AGB. I work with boards of trustees as well, boards of regents, in establishing an equity agenda. Because we know that we have boards that come from all walks of life, and higher education might not be their main work. And so we want to make sure that you have resources at your fingertips as members of AGB to help facilitate that partnership on behalf of student success.
We wanted to make sure to just share a little bit of our experience in placing presidents with Hispanic serving institutions. This is a representative list of those placements. AGB Search has completed just north of 54 of those kinds of searches. And you can see institutions, many of them open access, nationwide, larger systems, smaller single campus organizations. And we think this kind of experience also helps position us to be successful in this search for the College of Southern Nevada.
And I also want to say I do have a personal connection to the College of Southern Nevada. I have 4 nieces who live here in Henderson, and Alexis will be coming to College of Southern Nevada in January. So once again, our focus on justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I want to say just a little bit more about my role as the Senior Advisor for Justice, Equity, and Inclusion for the entire association of AGB. I worked across every area of AGB, and every area has a framework for advancing justice, diversity, equity, and inclusion in all of our work. It's personal, interpersonal, and organizational. And I stood that work up across the entire association, and AGB has its own framework as well. And so we look at our work very intentional. We look at ourselves first. Where are our learning gaps? And how do we address those learning gaps personally, interpersonally, and organizationally? I also offer an anti-bias workshop with the advisory committee before they are engaged with the finalist materials, because we really feel like it's important for adult learners to be able to apply their learning and to also be able to check in with your own emotional intelligence. My workshops focus on trying to mitigate bias through emotional intelligence. When you have a gut reaction, what is that gut reaction? What's the story that's associated with that when you encounter individuals, especially individuals that aren't in your network? And so I always encourage us, and I give us a chance to work through case study, discussion, and it's a personal reflection, because none of us is perfect. We all have bias, and we have to work daily to mitigate that and understand how bias could be impacting the decisions that we make, and we're not aware of it. Sarah?
So when it comes to our presidential search process, and we're going forth of foreign, so I know you've heard some similar pieces before, because the process tends to be fairly similar across different kinds of institutions and positions. But wanted to start this step one, preparing and researching needs to support your search. Kim and I, if we were selected, it's here on a Monday, we could be ready tomorrow, and would be ready to hit the ground running to really kind of lay the groundwork, determine what's going to go in your position profile. You're looking at a mid to late October second committee meeting, and we would want to be able to be fully ready to be as familiar as we could, and to have a profile that reflected stakeholder input, and kind of a diversity of thought and perspective from across your institution. It is exciting for us to see such a broad and diverse advisory group serving this search, and that really pays dividends over the whole arc of the process, and is a super wise move. So looking forward to also being able to engage with and through that group to make sure we can bring the voice of your college community into the profile. From there, recruiting a really rich candidate pool. We note there typically at least 6 to 8 weeks, but given how you've laid out your timeline, we know we would have probably more like 2.5, 3 months for that pool. We hit a big break in the middle of this process, and we're very confident that we would be able to.
Holiday break.
That's right. And then with the review of candidates and conducting interviews, working with the committee chair on selecting semifinalists, identifying the kinds of questions to get at whether a person should advance through your search, and then working to facilitate that process for the remote interviews, and then leading up to in-person finalist interviews, campus input sessions, and things like, and the candidate forums. And then we end with transition support, and Kim can speak more about that.
Okay. And I also want to emphasize in the committee, the campus forums, you know that you want that to be an inclusive process. Sometimes our clients have asked us to give a SurveyMonkey link to individuals who have encountered the finalists so that they could give feedback as well. And that's just something that you want to have. And it also gives that air of inclusivity in that individuals had a chance to weigh in with their thoughts and feelings about the finalists. And so we would do that for you as well, if that's something that you would want, because we're your partner. And so we would definitely want to make sure that with the tone of the search, it's a partnership, and the tone of the search that's set for the next leader up front needs to be there from the start. And so we always recommend that you stand up a transition committee somewhere about halfway through the search, having a person that is a well-respected community leader that could work with internal and external stakeholders to set up that transition committee of diverse stakeholders to make sure that the next president gets a solid footing, meeting with the right stakeholders early on, because people will get their feelings hurt if they feel like the president ignored their particular group. So we need some intelligence around who are those key stakeholders that need to populate the president's calendar early on, whether it be through one-on-ones or whether it be through town hall meetings or receptions, but you want to make sure that that president gets the right amount of exposure and builds those relationships early on that they could leverage in their role as president. Even if they're someone from the local community, you still want to make sure that that person is now seen as the president of College of Southern Nevada, and what that might mean for that person, to reintroduce them as the president of College of Southern Nevada. Transition also, we think it's important to consider the entire, the family, and making sure that if they have loved ones and what those needs are for the loved ones if they have to transfer and move. So helping them to think about that, as well as thinking about the leadership team. What information do they need to provide the president early on before they even hit the ground running, to help them be prepared on day one? So making sure that the leadership team is involved with that and gives the presidents more than just, a list of things, but really, how are you moving forward in line with your strategic plan, your accomplishments, the key performance indicators. So the new president will know that coming in, where the team stands. And so it's really important in transition to think about those things, because that's how you end up with someone that stays a while, because they don't find some surprises in the right-hand top desk drawer that they weren't aware of. So that's really why we feel that transition is a real key to the success of a longstanding president.
Turning briefly to search strategy, we wanted to make sure to address our comfort with and experience with working with public institutions in states with bright sunshine laws, understanding Nevada's open meeting constraints and data practice considerations. We understand that AGB Search would be holding candidate materials until a finalist stage, at which point names and materials would become public. We're in a good position to be able to coach potential candidates as we speak to them, find out a comfort level. One way to head off people dropping out late in the process is to make sure they have their eyes wide open about what this means, since so many states have so many different sets of laws around this, so that there aren't any unpleasant surprises for them or for you. We feel very comfortable kind of navigating that space and understanding where that line is. Additionally, on search strategy, collaboration, certainly not just AGB Search, but AGB as an association of universities and colleges. I mean, our bread and butter is to collaborate with higher education institutions and make them as successful as possible. And so we are certainly comfortable and ready to help get this search organized ahead of your second meeting, making sure we've got a timeline, advertising plan, budget, the profile, understanding what you're looking for, so that we can turn to recruiting a talented pool of candidates from across our internal databases, from nominations, from personal connections, and also to be able to build kind of that diverse pool, however diversity looks to you. Are we interested in having non-traditional candidates in the pool? Are we interested in pulling from the military, from for-profit entities? And also making sure we're doing outreach through our advertising plan and through one-on-one calls, because we will have dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of calls and meetings with potential candidates before they enter the pool, to make sure that they are the kinds of candidates meeting the kinds of expectations and requirements you have. Kim?
And this is our proposed timeline. Of course, this maps onto your timeline. And we want to make sure that we're meeting your needs and working with the search chair appropriately as outlined in your process, delivering a diverse pool. But also, when you talk about this kind of a timeline, we know that we're in a times of change, constant change. And so we're your partner. And so we would make sure that we're flexible to any kinds of situations that might arise that require some adjustments in this timeline, because that's how it works. I mean, we've had that happen several times before. I will say last year I had a couple of presidential searches, and due to the campus unrest, a couple of individuals said, you know, I just can't leave my campus right now. It wouldn't be good for me to leave right now. And so, and so the timeline got adjusted because of those concerns coming up pretty regularly last spring. And so we had to be nimble, and we recovered, but we had to be, we had to be there for the right candidates. And that's our goal, is to be there, be present. As I said, being a part of the Association of Governing Boards, we are always curating content around the issues in higher education for boards. And so we often publish, we did publish just recently for boards a statement on undue influence for boards, how to navigate that. We did our statement on justice, diversity, and inclusion in 2020. That statement to date has been the most downloaded statement on our website. So we're constantly doing that kind of work. Our own search teams, we have a colloquium every once a month, and we engage in issues in our own self-learning around with the issues in higher education. We do the top 3 issues or top 5 issues for boards, and that impacts our work as well as search consultants. And so we are a learning team. We are a learning search firm. And so we want to put ourselves out there and hope that any presidents that we work with would approach their teams with a learning outcome with it. And as far as being a learning team, that means being vulnerable and creating psychological safety on your team to be able to move forward. Because when you have psychological safety, you promote innovation. People aren't afraid to speak up. And so we talk about these kinds of things with candidates to really build that kind of personal touch, learning their style. And that takes time. And that's important in the timeline. So that's what we'll be doing during the timeline with your search chair and sharing that kind of information. And then you see that we have July 2026 as the end. That's because we build in that year of transition support. And it's high-level support. And we check in monthly with the president and really just be there to bring to bear any kind of questions that they have, and if we could leverage those questions, the answers to those questions among our other search consultants if Sarah and I can't help. We're there to bring up the full weight of AGB search. And then we also have a coaching arm that's in-depth, more personal coaching. That is a service that we provide if you choose to take that on and the president wants that as well. That's an additional personal coaching relationship that is set up to help the president be successful. And so we're all about retention and not just starting a relationship, but elevating and advancing a relationship. I think, maybe years ago we did do a chancellor search for Nevada. So we are not new to this state. I'm from LA, I'm from California, so been here many times, and as I said, I have family that live here. So we're committed to being on board with you for at least that next year after the president is hired. As I said, our commitment is to you. Your success equals our success. They're inextricably linked. And so we just want to say that we look forward to the opportunity to partner with you again. And we feel this is an important role at an institution at an important time. And so we look forward to the opportunity. Here's our pricing. And our pricing structure, as you can see, is inclusive of the anti-bias workshop. We gave that, and the Hogan, and the executive coaching is outlined there as additional fees. And so I want to thank you, and we're open for questions.
So my question is, how do you evaluate the pool of candidates to make sure or to assure yourself they're appropriately diverse before presenting the final candidates to us?
Well, we're involved in conversation, and we know many of the people that we have worked with. As I said, I have an extensive network of individuals based on my time at ACE. We also have relationships that we have cultivated through, our own personal networks, and we bring that to bear. But we pride ourselves on a highly relational approach. And so social diversity comes in many forms and many intersecting identities. And so we don't try to define diversity. Diversity is ever present. We are intentional about acting to be inclusive and intentional about looking at things through an equity lens. And so when you have candidates that come with a unique trajectory that might be non-traditional, but bring a lot of a high adversity quotient, that could be very valuable at a time like this.
Well, I know that I speak for my colleagues in thanking you so much for your in-depth presentation, and we're all academics. We know this is not easy to do, so thank you. So my question is, can you speak to your retention rate with candidates that you place maybe at the 3- and 5-year level? And what are some steps that you take in addition to the things that you've talked about to ensure that the candidate is the right fit?
You want to start off or you want me to? Okay, well, we definitely start off with the end in mind, and the end is not ending the relationship. We have a lot of repeat business because we place someone, they get the job, and they hire us to help them to populate their leadership team. And so that's a part of retention too. You know, knowing that you have a relationship where you have a trusted partner that you can call on to help with your navigating your needs as a new leader. And the coaching piece that I talked about, the transition piece, those are key ways to know about issues that are coming up early on, and providing the resources or providing the tools or having the proper discussions, with a new president or chancellor to help them get what they need. Have conversations, setting up a regular meeting with your board chair, and having that relationship with the board where they understand that the board may be in executive session, setting up that kind of a culture early on, so when the board goes into executive session, it doesn't signal a problem, but having the board regularly do that. And then having the leader, the president, understand that, once again, that openness, being vulnerable, having high emotional intelligence. You don't have to come in trying to be the expert. Leverage the talents of your team. And so we talk about those kinds of things, and reflect personally with leaders on their style and where they might have some learning gaps and how they can close those gaps. That's how we approach retention. And then we do the Hogan assessment as a developmental tool. So that tool can give a person some insights and about some of the blind spots or ways that they can focus on their own professional development in the role.
And I'd add as well, you're a unique spot with hiring a chancellor for the system. You've got the board making these 2 hiring decisions, and then this president would then turn and report to that chancellor. It's a lot of flux, right? As people come and go with regent elections and other things. It's trying to be a resource to a candidate once placed, and also to the hiring authority after that placement happens, so that when the inevitable pinch points arise, there are some tools and assistance to navigate through it, because it's really a make or break first year, right? That's when people's feelings about a place can get set a little bit in concrete, even if it's transition, and we can see it, but it's hard when you're in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See a hand
Sorry.
up on the screen.
So my question, I don't know if you heard me ask this to the other groups, but I'll repeat it again. I'm looking to figure out what's your I guess success rate, percent rate of when the group has been presented semifinalists, what percent of the time have they come back to you and said, we want more, we want another group, we want an alternate group or something like that? And then the second question is, what's the percent of time that the board has made a choice of a president and for whatever reason that first choice declined the job in your experience?
So I can't give percentages for the firm. I've had that happen maybe since 2017. I can think of 2 times where we got into the pool, we got into the interviews, we got into the candidate assessment, and the pool just really wasn't presenting good alignment with what was in the search profile. So we had to take a pause and go back and re-examine what the profile said and how that happened, and deconstruct that. And so we were able to do that. And that's being a learning team, right? Learning together, saying, okay, the people that are applying aren't really mapping onto what's our message? How do we adjust our message? And that's okay to do that, because you want ultimately the right person. So if that kind of adjustment has to happen, it has to happen. And so I can speak for myself. I've had that happen a couple of times, but ultimately we got the right person. And I think that's really the goal. And then, the second part, or did you want to say anything about that? Okay. And then, getting to the finalist stage, we talk about that on the front end. As I said, talking to candidates. What is first of all, why College of Southern Nevada? Why now? And what would be any hesitancies if you were offered the job tomorrow? What would you have to do to be able to accept if you were offered tomorrow? And if they say, well, I have a middle schooler that thinks I'm going to ruin their life if I move, then that's going to be a problem, right? And so you have to pull those things and make them visible and say, is it the right time for you to make a move like this? And really have the person examine it with the discernment. But I always say, you're going to be asked, why College of Southern Nevada? Why now? And I ask them, what do you hope to achieve if you were offered this role? And really, digging deep and having people do personal reflections is a way for them to come across. And have you talked to your family? And what would they say about moving to Nevada if you had to move to Henderson, Nevada? And really being honest with yourself about that, because it's a big commitment to put together a packet. And we don't want this campus to get to the finalist stage and have somebody, sometimes things happen. Life happens. You have unexpected issues that come up that you could have never foreseen. As people, we all have that. But some of these things about, is this the right institution for me right now? I want to hear why you think that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Regent Boylan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the great presentation. I appreciate it. Learned a lot. And I'm glad you brought this up because that was my main question to each group, and I didn't do it. So how do you find out or evaluate if a candidate can handle issues such as the unrest last year against the Jews on campuses? Many presidents had to resign. And also we had a shooting last year. How do you evaluate? Do you have someone who can evaluate the intestinal fortitude of a leader in such dire, dark circumstances?
Well, we often talk about trauma-informed leadership. And how do you look at situations where there's a crisis? How do you respond? Having, once again, that personal discernment and pulling the expertise of your team together. But, there's things that can't be expected. And so change is constant. And so we always talk about a change agent. What does it mean to be a change agent? What does that mean? I ask that question. And if people don't understand the change curve, change is an individual, it's a personal, it's an emotional thing, right? Change happens, you have people that are, resistors to change, right? And then the change curve says that, at some point they become, more adaptable. They see themselves. There's fear in change. So we talk about that and how do you lead in those times of crises? And we learned through the pandemic, individuals that never thought they could lead found themselves required to lead and found how they were able to be a crisis manager. And so we asked people for examples, not just how would you, but how have you? And what did you learn? What did you learn and what would you do differently? And so I think sometimes, we have to just be honest about it. In these roles, you're going to be put on the spot every day. That calendar is great. I always say it's good until the day of. So really thinking about it in that way, that you have to be a highly adaptable leader. And so how would you describe yourself as an adaptive leader? And listening for those cues from individuals to say how they would lead in a time of crisis.
And I'd add as well to that, it's a great question. You can take some of your reference check kind of interview skills and turn it to screening candidates before they even enter your pool. Give us an example of when you have, and get people to start thinking about their own readiness, maybe sometimes in a little bit of an uncomfortable way. Put them under a little bit of a microscope, a gentle microscope, so that they're forced to articulate when they've had to think enterprise-wide, when they've had to lift up out of a unit to be able to look across and navigate something like unrest, or navigate something that is also a crisis, but much more meat and potatoes, like a difficult fiscal situation, enrollment matters, right? There are lots of big challenges facing higher ed. And there are you want to screen, you want to identify which candidates think they might be able to, and those who can articulate that they've actually maybe done some of those things already and maybe haven't recognized it for the kind of leadership that the hiring authority would be looking for.
And I just wanted to add.
Thank you so much.
I
Oh,
just
sorry.
want
Go
to
ahead.
add something. When we do the profile, you know, we want to be able to announce to the world that the College of Southern Nevada is looking for its next president. What are the challenges that this person should be poised and ready to face? What are the opportunities that they could leverage? And what personal and professional attributes should they possess? And so we want to give a nod to some of those things already and see how they address that in their letter of interest, because that'll tell you also about what they've done. And that kind of opens that door to even delve deeper as you start to move through the process.
Thank you. That's a wonderful answer. And like a great man, Mike Tyson said, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the face. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Regent
Madam Chair.
Carvalho.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say that I was the chair of the search committee for Nevada State University, which brought President Pollard to us, and AGB was the search consultant for that search. So thank you for that. She's been here almost 4 years now.
Yes.
And also, Dr. Berry, you were Bobby, I'm sorry. You conducted an anti-bias training for our committee for that, so thank you. And I can attest that that was very helpful at the time. And I'll pose the same question to you that I've posed to the others, although I feel like you've kind of answered this in various ways. But again, that there are some challenges to the leadership of our system right now, and I know that sometimes potential candidates may find that to be something of a question. So how would you navigate the changing environment of our system's leadership?
You want to go first?
Thank you for that question. I think it's there are changes in the leadership of your system and potential changes to how your board is constituted. From where I sit, the bigger challenge for candidates might be moving from not reporting to a board to reporting to a board. And it's irrelevant how the board is selected, right? Because many leaders believe they know what it means to report to a board until they do, and then it's almost a recognition of, oh, so it's like this every day, right? It's very different. And so I think it's not to set aside your concerns but we believe the pool in general, the candidates who want to seek this executive position will already have accessed many of your public materials and will come to us at least with eyes half open and good questions about how to open it the rest of the way. But it's also just about helping candidates who have not before reported to a public board understand how it will be different and where there might be new minefields in their leadership practices. That it's good to just have that extra kind of spidey sense around. Yeah.
Right. And then once again, that notion around change. Change is constant. And so if someone's looking for, still waters constantly, then this is not the role. There is no role I don't think, in higher education that the water is just still. And so really helping candidates discern how they would navigate, what concerns they have about that. Once again, a good candidate is going to already know about these things because they will have done their homework before they've even called us. And then staying in touch with us if they have questions. And we would take your guidance to say, I have a search now that went on pause, and the board put it on pause for a reason, but they gave us the guidance. We needed to stay in touch with the candidate pool regularly to keep the candidate pool engaged. We worked very closely with the board to make sure that the messaging kept the pool engaged. And it was public of what was happening, but we just reassured the pool that these things are going to be resolved and the search will be resumed once a decision is made. So just really being high communicators, over-communicate. That's the key. That's something that we hear. Every leadership, I have not done one leadership profile that has not said, we need a strong communicator. And so we have to communicate. And that's what we try to do with candidates around change and around any issues they may be having, any emotional kind of reactions to and questions. And so we want to be sort of their, their sounding board. And that helps us really when we come to different phases in the process. Oops, we're out of time.
Thank you. Regent Del Carlo.
Thank you, Chair Brown. Thank you for your presentation too. And on your optional services, you talk about a Hogan
Yes, the Hogan assessment.
assessment. Could you explain exactly what that is?
Well-
And then are you saying we have the option to ask like our finalists? Can you just expand on that, please?
Yes, you have the option. That's something that you would do for your finalists. Two, it's a personal assessment, as I talked about, really helping candidates and you get an idea of some areas where they might have strengths, where they might have growth opportunities, but that's just something that's developmental, and it's designed for executive. Hogan as it crosses all industries, but several of our team members are licensed to do the Hogan assessment. I'm going through the process myself right now, so it's really another way for the hiring manager to get some insights that weren't asked earlier on or in an open or public forum, but it's also a good piece of information as the board and the next president work together on, their own assessment of their progress. And it's another tool that you could link certain performance indicators to.
So just to follow on, so you would use that Hogan assessment while you're still picking your candidate when you get them down to like your final four or whatever?
It would be for your finalists. Mm-hmm.
And then you're able to use that information publicly too?
No, that would just be between you and the finalists. No, it's not public information.
What, would the committee know it?
It would just be for the hiring manager and the
Like the search chair?
Right.
For Nevada, maybe?
Right. Yes, it wouldn't be public information. It would be held in confidence with the board. I would think the hiring manager, the chancellor or the board to understand, because you want to put it in place as a developmental tool in assessing the performance of the president, which is not a public document.
Okay.
So you want to make sure you use it in that way, because it does give some insights. And we talk about retention. That's another way to really design with intention the success of an individual, if you know these kind of developmental or growth opportunities that they may be able to tap into.
And do you have a lot of clients that take you up on this? Because this is the first time I've heard about this.
Oh, really? Oh, no.
yeah.
We have several that do it, because it is a way, it is designed for success for both parties.
Okay.
So yeah, it's once again one of those tools that we like to advance in service to a good partnership with the president and the board.
Okay, maybe that helps with your retention too. And my follow-on question would be on that, because you did go out to July 2026, talking about that transition for the new president, because sometimes it can be sort of shocking, but
yes,
what you get into. And you said a phone call once a month?
However they want to set it up, we are there to do it. And then, so if it's an issue that, Sarah and I haven't dealt with, I check in with the other 50 search consultants, and then that person may bring to bear some resources for the president. So we come with the full force and weight of the experiences of our team across AGB search.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, AGB. We really appreciate the presentation.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time, and we really hope that we are your firm of choice, and we love to partner with you again.
Thank you. Before we move on, we are going to take a 10-minute break. So we'll be back here at 2:20. Okay. Once again, I want to thank ACCT Searches, Lead Exec, Academic Search, and GBC and AGB Search for the presentation. Before I turn it over and to hear from our advisory committee, I'm going to let Regent Carvalho and then Regent Del Carlo read some disclosures.
Thank you, Chair Brown. Pursuant to NRS Chapter 281A, I hereby disclose that I am a member of ACCT's State Coordinator Committee. I do not work with ACCT Search in any way. Additionally, I was previously a member of AGB's Council of Finance Chairs, but I have not been a member of this council since January 2024 and did not work with AGB Search. Because the independent judgment of a reasonable person would not be materially affected by my situation, I will vote on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Brown. I have a very similar disclosure, and I'm making this in due to state ethics rules. And I don't believe my relationship with ACCT, which I am the vice chair of the organization, and we are all volunteers, will material affect my ability to remain impartial and unbiased, and thus I will be participating in these votes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Similarly, how the question and answer worked with the 4 committees, I am going to turn it over to the advisory committee and allow any commentary. I do want to try and keep it positive, and if you feel so inclined, please feel free to share your top 2 for the board to take that into consideration. Please.
Well, as I said to the search committees, obviously everyone put a lot of work into their presentations, and I really do appreciate that. So my top selection is academic search. I understand that they're also the most expensive, so that could be a negative. But their 91% 5-year retention rate is spectacular in the industry, and I think that's an important consideration. I also was impressed by the organization of their presentation and the fact that they had really done their homework, and they were familiar with a number of our programs. And I think that speaks well to their interest in, frankly, winning our business. I also appreciated ACCT. They were my second choice. I liked the thoroughness that they appear to vet candidates with, and the fact that they emphasized their off-list calling. And I like the fact that they're a nonprofit, and so there's not a profit motive there. They're really just trying to help the industry, and I know we're keeping things positive. But I would be remiss if I didn't say I was concerned with some aspects of let me get their name right here. Is it lead executive? And what concerned me is the presentation was entirely red, and also the fact that the time was not managed well. And I understand this is not a communication contest or anything, but I worry that this is indicative of some other things about how they conduct business. And, perhaps it was just a bad day or a one-off or whatever. But certainly there's none of the firms that I would be disappointed with if the Board of Regents chose to go with them. And I really appreciate the opportunity to give some input. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, please.
So I think we have 4 very good search firms. I don't think we can go wrong at all. My top 2 would be ACCT. I really like the fact that they emphasize, diversity and confidentiality. I like their price, their nonprofits. And then also like lead exec as my number 2. And finally, my number 3, if we want to go in that order, I would do with the AGB. So that's it.
And please try and introduce yourself for the record. Yeah.
And that was Eric Garner for the record.
And I'm Tracy Sherman. My top choice would be AGB. I really appreciated the follow-up and coaching aspects. CSN can be a challenging place, and there are a lot of balls in the air at any given time. I don't know that there will be too many, someone used the term unicorns, out there who would have the experience right out of the gate that we would need. So I liked that. My second choice was ACCT for reasons that have previously been mentioned.
Valerie Connor for the record. My first choice would be AGB, and my second choice would be academic firm. And the things that I liked about those 2 firms is that they talked a lot about competency skills, that they're looking for individuals with competency skills, and I think that that will be very important for CSN.
Devin Eisma. One question. I know that 3 of the firms we've worked with before. Does anybody here have any experience with them? And I don't know if this is the exact forum, but my favorite 2 or top 2 are Academic Search and Lead Exec. I'm pretty obsessed with the whole concept of leadership, and I like Academic Search's investment in finding out what leaders recommend to other leaders as ways to identify them. I think that's something that's really important.
For the record, Armin Asherian. My top pick was Academic Search. I know that they're more expensive, but we have a saying also, there's nothing more expensive than the cheapest. What I particularly liked, well, there was a lot, but the fact that they engaged as an organization in learning, that they actually went out and collected data. They analyze that data. They know at a very intimate level what those 6 competencies are. And my experience has been when you're able to start thinking through at that level, you've got an insight that puts you head and shoulders above everyone else.
Jenna Fences-Balvis for the record. My top 2 choices are ACCT searches and AGB search. ACCT searches uses data in order to identify industry trends, and this will definitely help the College of Southern Nevada. And AGCB has a SWOT analysis done through the Hogan assessment, which is definitely important for the future of the president and their capabilities here at CSN.
Anybody else?
I'll talk here. Sorry, I thought we were going in order. Patrick Villa for the record. My number 1 choice was Academic Search. I really am, even though they're most expensive, I'm more about the experience, what I think they can do in cutting off problems, preventing problems. The questions I kept asking were from my experience of being on searches where, one specifically for a VPAA, we got a pool of candidates. I was telling someone that a minute ago, and nobody liked any of what was going on. It didn't match the search. It didn't match what we need. They were out of tune. And we had to go back to them and get another crop, a second tier of people. And that stalled the process, and it just sent the whole thing spiraling down. I've also had experience where our first choice did turn down the job. That's why I asked that other question. And we have people at CSN, it's like the 3rd choice of a search, and we just had to have the position filled, so we settled. And I'm, again, trying to hopefully to avoid that. And the Academic Search, they seem like they're going to try to prevent all these issues ahead of time. They have experience with this stuff. My second one was AGB. I felt they also were focused on that, ready for that. And I do like that they got a little extra unique intangibles that other ones didn't have. So I found that kind of refreshing, that they're not just, they're doing something a little different, but necessary, I think.
Chair Brown, Rolando Mosqueda for the record, College of Southern Nevada. Just in terms of process, if this group narrows the 4 down to 2, there's always the opportunity to engage, in a hypothetical, the 2 finalist firms in a best and final type of dialogue and engagement with regards to the pricing. Each of the committee's feedback is evolved around this concept of price, which is always one of the hazards of showing price to the group as they're making decisions. I understand why that's important, but again, there may be an opportunity for pencil sharpening, if you will, in this process.
Hi, Jill Acree. I kind of agree with a lot of people so far. I think all 4 are excellent, and I think you can't make a wrong decision here. But I also would have to go with Academic Search and AGB because of the emphasis on the soft skills and the emphasis on what makes a leader, what makes a president successful. I think we've had experience with unsuccessful president recently, and I think it is in those intangibles. And I think so those two firms did focus on those intangibles. That's why they're my top two choices. Thank you.
Susie Martinez for the record. I'd have to say Academic Search, even though they were the most expensive. And being secretary treasurer, they always make fun of me because they're like, "You're so cheap, Susie." But I'm like, we got to take care of our money, right? But like the colleague was saying, sometimes, it's okay to spend that money because, when you get the best, you pay for the best. And we don't want to make a mistake because this is just too important. And as for my second, I would have to say AGB. Thank you.
Hi, Sarah Tartaglia for the record. I mirror what a lot of people have been saying, so I'll just add that I also found Academic Search to be my #1 choice. I appreciated that they clearly did the research on our institution and were able to speak on what makes CSN so unique compared to all of the other colleges and institutions they've worked with. I also appreciated ACCT searches. I think that having somebody with local connections is really a strong, something that we should take into consideration.
Thank you. I believe everyone in the circle has had a moment. I'm going to turn it over to the Zoom line. Ken, if you wanted to add your thoughts.
Thank you very much. Ken Evans for the record. In the first, I would say the Academic Search, I'm a student of leadership myself, retired military officer. And so to me, the fact that they did research, identified leadership core competencies definitely resonates with me. Regarding the price, here's something I used to say when I was at the Urban Chamber. Don't think of it as an expense, think of it as an investment. And that's a whole different mindset and mentality in a situation like this. For the second one, I was very impressed with AGB, and I'll also share that I was part of that presidential search. And yes, some of the unique things that they did in terms of #1, making sure that we knew about biases and the fact that you have to avoid them or manage them in order to get a quality, diverse group. That was good. And then #2, what I also appreciate is their unique idea about the transition concept or the transition committee. So those are my two. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Goins-Brown, if you had anything to add, and then I'll turn it over to the rest of the folks.
Thank you so much. My top two, I will second a lot of the comments that were already stated, but I like Academic Search as my top just because of their success rate that they mentioned. And the question about changes in leadership just kind of struck a chord with me because of the way they answered it very thoroughly and how they mentioned that a good leader can adapt to those changes because changes are inevitable. Just the thorough answers related to the experience of the team. And I asked that question about their selection process. So basically, we're not going to waste your time with someone who we don't feel that fits in what we're looking for as a leader. And my second choice would be AGB for many of those same reasons. But their DEI skill set struck a chord with me as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on Zoom that would like to weigh in? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to the regents not on the committee. Regent Boylan.
Thanks for asking me, ma'am, but right now I'm kind of just thinking about it. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have anything yet.
Peter, is your hand up? Peter Guzman?
No, my hand was, were you talking to me?
Yes.
No, my hand wasn't up, but you know, I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but I'm really anxious and hoping that one or more locals jump into this thing and want to go for this job. It's a tremendous opportunity and a tremendous job. So
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Can you go, SAS, can you go back to the screen so I can see? I think Regent Ariscata is on the line. I wanted to give you an option to weigh in if you had one, if you had a opinion.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity. I am going to be continuing to listen to the search committee. I highly respect the individuals that are on this and that have been participating, in addition to the regents and your leadership throughout this process. I respect the decision of the individuals making and sitting on the table.
Thank you, Regent Ariscata. Regent Cruz Crawford.
I don't have anything to add. I just really want to share that I appreciate us going to the search committee and involving the community instead of just placing someone. I just really appreciate the community input. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm going to turn it over to the members of the committee. Regent Brigger.
Susan Brager for the record. I am going to make a motion. Of course, it's always discussable, so I just want to put that out there first. I would like to make a motion for academic search. I do want to preface that, well, I didn't preface it with it, but I do want to say that I do think that everyone made a great presentation. I just really enjoyed the homework that they did do and who they are at this particular time. It doesn't mean we wouldn't look at anyone else at another time. We have a number of searches coming up, but I do believe that at this time and where we are within our presidential search, that I felt like they offered the most at this point in time. So I'd make a motion to accept academic search.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion from Susan Brager, Regent Brager, and a second by Regent Carvalho. I'll open it up for discussion. Regent Goodman, did I see you go off mute?
Thank you so much. I appreciate giving me the floor. I really liked academic search. I liked how they defined leader. I think that really said a lot. And I really liked that they listed those competencies. I think that leaders looking for leaders is really an advantage. Look what's happened with Dr. Kibler. He's done some really great things at CSN. And I just really think that this is the way to go. And I'm fully supportive. And this is an investment, as Mr. Evans said. It's an investment. This is not too much money. This is making sure that we're paying for a search committee that is going to find us someone that is going to stay, is going to really love what they do, and is an active member of our community as the president of CSN. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the committee? Yeah, Regent Del Carlo.
Thank you, Chair Brown. I agree. We had 4 wonderful presentations, and this is really an important hire. I've always said that this is probably the most important job aspect of the job as a regent, is to pick our leaders. And we've done a pretty darn good job over the years I've been on the board, and this is about my 12th search or so. And I'm very comfortable having academic search. I've worked with them before, and if you go back to the paper or what was said, they hired someone at CSN in the past who's done a terrific job. So I think we're going to be fine with this pick, as we would have been with any of them, but they really do stand out. Thank you.
Okay. Should we read the full?
Yeah, Chair Brown, I think the full motion would be for the selection of academic search, and then with the language in the agenda item, which would include negotiations with the NSHE for a contract with the board on behalf of the College of Southern Nevada.
Okay. I'll go ahead and I'll finish that: to provide executive search services and aid the ad hoc CSN President Search Committee in the search for a permanent president of CSN. If that is amenable to both Regent Brager and
It is to me.
Great. Well, then I will move for a vote. We don't need to do roll call, right? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed?
Aye.
All those All those opposed? Abstentions? All right. Well, congratulations, academic search. We're excited to work with you over the next year. All right, with that, we will move on to new business. Is there any new business from the committee? Seeing none, we will move to public comment. Is there any public comment here at CSN Henderson? SES, is there any public comment on the phones?
There is none at this time.
Seeing none, we will adjourn this at 2:44 PM. Thank you so much.